What's up, guys? On the Fly is back again, and we are going live. We decided to go live tonight. We hadn't done that in a couple of shows, so we are live on Facebook and Twitter. If you got any comments you want to share with us, go right ahead. Um, with me, as always, not Garth. I'm not Wayne, but with me, as always, is Warden. What's up, bud? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you been? How was your week so far?
Easter week was pretty good. We had I was off Saturday. I went Sunday and Monday, and so that was good. But back to the salt mines, and actually, uh, I guess I feel like a little bit of a local celebrity this week. I got to throw out the first pitch
Oh,
at a
wow.
baseball tournament this week, and haven't thrown a pitch off a mound in, let's see, 17 to 31 years. So yeah, it was a little, and I was
Now,
worried I was worried I wasn't gonna be able to get it there. And I was like, no, I didn't have a
now
problem getting there, but if
you
I'd have
didn't
been
pull
pitching for
a
somebody,
you didn't pull a Baba Booey, did you? And throw it like
no, no.
you've seen that happen. That's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in front of millions of people. So it's like, yeah,
But if there had been a batter up, I would have been head hunting. I mean, he would have been he would have been carried off. Yeah, it would have been because it was
man.
way inside, hiding inside.
Okay,
So
headhunting not on purpose though. I was like, oh wow,
no, it
what a
wasn't.
mean
It
streak
wasn't
I
on
haven't been.
purpose. I was just throwing. I was throwing as hard as I could, so I could.
About to
I
say,
knew
I
I
haven't
could
seen
get
that
there.
side of you yet. So it's like, okay, don't piss him
No,
off. Okay.
I was a pitcher back in my senior
Okay.
year in high school, but as far as speed goes, no, I didn't have speed.
So it's baseball or
Uh,
softball? So you haven't played baseball
base-
and you never played softball in the last 31
I
years? Or
played
just
softball. I played like we had like a co-ed league over in another where I worked at the place I worked at. We had a co-ed league in that town, and I played for a few years there. And later on, I'll tell you a funny story about that. It was actually a church league, and let's just say I had a little. Okay, I'll go ahead and tell you the story because it's funny. Um, so I'm on first, and I'm like, okay, this guy's pretty good to hit in the right field. So if I do it right, I can get to third if he gets a hit in the right field. So you want to be smooth like the baseball players and tap the side of second base when you rounded second. Yeah, I went to tap second and my ankle just went woof, just rolled.
ow.
I went down like somebody shot me, and I got up and I tried to make it to third because I still had a shot to get to third, and I got to third. But when I got to third, they overthrew the ball. They were like, "Go, go, go!" And I was like, "I can't do that." And I got up, trying to go, and couldn't go. And I think I got out. And when I came in the dugout, the preacher for the church was sitting right there. I was like, "Excuse my language," but I was like, "Shit, shit, shit."
The preacher
And
is
I was
telling
like,
you this?
yeah, I mean,
Nice.
so it's one of those. It's one of those stories. One of the guys that played with me loves to tell over and over again, and wish he had video of. But
It's
yeah,
funny,
that,
kind of talking about that. It kind of brings up, I'm a big St. Louis Cardinals fan, and Albert Pujols is back home where he belongs. Should have never left. And he the other night tried to steal second, and I was like, God, I thought I was slow. And I mean, I got a good. I mean, he's probably what 7, 8 years younger than me, but I didn't run that good when I was in my 20s, And I was like, oh, he's running kind of slow. It's like it looks pretty good to me, but I mean, you've been on so many miles on the tires, it's kind of hard. And plus, when I used to play softball, we used to do that, and I've always played catcher. I tried to play outfield, and I tried to play first. It's like I was out there, and I had no depth perception. I'm like, oh, I got the ball, and it's like, whoa,
nope.
like I'll stay with catcher. I mean, my favorite player of all time is Yadier Molina.
Yeah.
So I played catch. I mean, it was there. So I mean, I haven't quite got the neck tattoos yet. I mean, but that's coming next week. It's
Go
the stick
for it.
on ones that
Go for it.
But when you're a millionaire and you can afford that, yeah. But softball is great, but I can't imagine playing baseball. I mean, they talk about people using steroids and stuff like that. You still got to hit the ball. I mean, it still takes a
Yeah.
talent to hit the ball.
It still takes the eye. You have to have the eye.
But that's another podcast, steroids in baseball.
Yep. Steroid use in baseball. But
Easter was good for me. I just kind of hung out here and hang out with the dog and did some. It's getting so hot down here that even our weeds are dying. And it's usually people pay for that
Wow.
to happen, but we were having something in Texas now that we didn't. That I grew up. I've been in Texas most of my life. I lived in Missouri for a spell, but I remember in high school we played football out there and stuff, and you'd see the rain. It didn't used to hail here, but now we get hail without the rain. And I'm like, okay, I get them together, but we're getting hail. Oh, look out for hail! It ain't gonna rain, but we're gonna get hail. And I'm like, well, that's a bad deal. So
Yeah, that's
we
not a
had
good.
that the other night and stuff like that. But my car got kind of dinged on the way because it just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad enough to do it. But they had some pretty big hail down here. They had some like I guess almost they call them hen eggs size.
Oh yeah.
And I would always call them chicken eggs, but are they rooster eggs? But you think it's not that big, but that's pretty good size.
That's
I mean,
a
it's your
pretty
car.
good size coming out of the sky.
But they got them like that big. Like they got grapefruit size sometimes. I mean, it's like biblical, like biblical, what's the word, when the stuff,
Brimstone.
Yeah, brimstone and fire. I guess that's what hail
Yeah.
is, brimstone. So,
Well, our weather went, North Carolina weather can change on a dime. And where we were having 80-degree weather last week. And I said, this is like that tournament, that baseball tournament, it actually finished today. So I said last week when we were at the ball field, I said, you can guarantee, because it was nice out there last week. I said, you can guarantee at least one of those days of that tournament, it's going to be cold. And grant you not, yesterday we had low 50s with
nice.
big time breeze. It was cold. It was really cold.
Wow.
With the wind. The wind was strong, and boy, yeah. I said, I told you guys. So
See, our ideas of cold are two different things.
Yeah.
Anything below 60 is cold to me.
Well, so you could have in North Carolina, you could have 80-degree weather one minute and go down to like 30 the next. I mean, it's just
that. Well, you have it here. If it gets below 60, I mean, it's like, everybody's at the grocery store like it's the Armageddon's coming. I mean,
bread and milk.
Texans don't do good with real bad weather. Not South Texas. We can't drive in the sun, so it's even worse we had snow last year that was real bad, and this city shut down for like 2 weeks. I mean, and I've seen it before in Missouri, and I had enough of it as a kid. So I mean, it's like, yeah, you get you get the day off, but I mean, it's only a couple of days. It's you get kind of bored. But I couldn't get down the driveway.
Our big things, we can handle snow most of the time, but our big things is, I remember as a kid we had an ice storm that hit. We were out of power for like a week and a half.
Yeah, and
you had your little, you're bored at night, nothing. And I remember I had a little Walkman. And I was picking, when nothing else is interfering with it, you can pick up for, states. Like I was picking up a New York radio station.
Oh, wow.
Out of the blue. And I was like, this is pretty cool, but, I'd still rather have my lights back. But,
yeah. You probably had a fireplace. See, I'm SOL.
No.
Oh, really? I'm at SOL because we lost power here. People lost power here in Texas, but luckily mine didn't go out, but my water went out because the water plant lost power. So all the pumps froze up. So I just filled up the bathtub, and just, wash your fingers.
Yeah. Well, what we had was the little old kerosene heater. Right? This was, back in the day. We had it in the middle of the house. And it had a fan on it, so it did pretty good. But you had to bundle up. Back in the day where I lived, when we would stay with my grandparents, they didn't want any kind of air conditioning. They had like a big heater. I mean, they had a big 2-story house. They didn't want air conditioning. They just had fans, and they kept the door upstairs open at night when you slept. But in the wintertime, they had the kitchen and the living room that had heat in it. And then they had, how many bedrooms was it? 2 bedrooms. But when you walk, like we did Christmas Eve up there. When you walked out of that, those 2 rooms, like you had to walk out to go down the stairs to get out. It was like, okay, you went from 80 degrees to like 30 degrees when you walked out to the thing. It was like, whoa, but they didn't do that. And we tried to put I remember my mom and her brothers tried to put a window unit air conditioning in there one year, and within like 2 days, my granddaddy was like, "Get that thing out of here! I don't want it." I was like, "Wow." So he was used to it. He just didn't want anything like that. But
Well, we had that
yeah,
down
those were
here,
the
but
days.
they weren't air conditioners. They were called water coolers, and it was like an AC unit, but it was the water was in it. I don't know if they had them up there, but they had them down here before central air got real popular. And I could kind of see maybe it's the same thing because there was that moldy water you could smell, like when.
Yeah.
And
Oh
maybe
yeah.
that's, but I mean, it definitely did the trick though. But I can kind of see why before we really knew what mold was, and it's all over your house. So, but yeah, AC is a must for me, bro. I mean, it's like I can remember cars. It was like extra, like FM radio, AC extra. I mean, I'm old enough to remember that, and I'm like, you just roll the windows down and went with it. And now it's like, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
I love technology.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, tonight our topic is just pretty much things we like. I mean, since Warden's new to me and I'm new to him, we're going to talk about that. Try to get to know each other and try to see what you guys think. If what you think about what we like, and there might be a few guilty pleasures in there, things that we might talk a little bit about things you wouldn't think we like, but we do like. Because I think I've given a little bit of that away in past episodes, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we do that, we did our Rod Stewart top 10 last week. And the tournament started. The 64, the Rod Stewart Music Madness Tournament of 64 started last week. And we've got down to the final 32. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the matchups right now going into round two. So, and there was really what I did was I took me and Warden's top 10, and I started with Warden's number one, made that, I started with my number one, then we just staggered. And if we had a repeat, I just did that. And then I went from there and found, however many more songs. It's no real ranking except for our top 10. So it's pretty random. But leading off, Tonight's the Night versus Handbags and Glad Rags. Now, I'm not familiar with Handbags and Glad Rags. I don't know if you are or not.
Yeah. It's an old folksy kind of song. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old, but it didn't stand a chance here. I mean, I pretty much figured that Tonight's the Night was gonna do this. And let me look at
especially about spreading your wings, that kind of probably got a lot of people.
Yeah, that line in there. We've talked about that in the podcast. So that got Tonight's the Night, believe it or not, 79% of the vote.
I can see that. Probably not. The other one's probably not a real known song. That was some of his earlier stuff. The one version I remember that's really good is on Unplugged, which is it's more lively. Like the other ones, it's kind of older. It's like I can't remember the album it's on, but it's one of his earlier stuff. It may have been off Every Picture Tells a Story, if I'm not mistaken.
It may have been, but then that'll Baby Jane versus You Got a Nerve, and Baby Jane moves on with 83, almost 84% of the vote. So
good song.
Yeah. So next matchup was All for Love, which is with Sting and Bryan Adams from the Three Musketeers soundtrack, versus That's All Right. Now, All for Love gets the win with 62% of the vote. So then
that's a
you wear. Go ahead.
That's an Elvis cover. So
That's all right.
I guess they prefer the Elvis cover. Yeah. Still, yeah. That's definitely off All Every Picture Tells a Story. I know that for sure because that was one of my favorites.
Yeah, and then You Wear It Well versus Twisting the Night Away, and You Wear It Well gets the win, 81% of the vote. And we're gonna tell you after I get through going through this, we'll talk about the round of 32 matchups after this. Hot Legs versus Hard Road. This is where stuff started getting lopsided. Hot Legs gets the win, 92% of the vote. that wasn't your favorite. That wasn't your number one.
No, my number one lost.
Yeah,
it
I
lost
saw that.
pretty
I was
bad.
and that matchup was one of the ones that had the most comments on it as well, because they were people going back and forth about, oh, come on, you can't let this happen, and
Yeah.
people were on different sides, which is what I love to see. I love seeing you guys talk about the stuff.
Well, he's called, like, his box set's called Storyteller, and that's like the story of kind of his life. I mean, it's a great song. I had friends of mine that I had them like I had them play it for one of my birthdays back then, and it's like, you guys gotta. And he's like, okay, Rod Stewart guy, and I played it for them, and they played it, and it was like, man, that is a good song, and I think it was popular, but it's not as popular as like Hot Legs or Do You Think I'm Sexy. I don't know if many people know it as well. It's not
right.
I think he still plays it, if I'm not mistaken. I'll find out in July.
Yeah, that's right. You want to see him in July.
And Cheap Trick.
I don't want. Yeah, that ought to be a pretty good show there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Cheap Trick.
Up for Rod Stewart. Yeah, I mean, people don't give Cheap Trick enough credit, I don't think, but they put on a good show, and they play. I wonder if because I've been hearing they do a lot of different set lists. I mean, they're not like some bands that stick to a set list till they play it to death. I'm not saying with the name of that band.
Here we go.
But they just started up again this week, and
yeah, I want to say something. I want to say something about that. I know that we're in the middle of the Rod Stewart thing, but I want to say something about kind of the elephant in the room who we're talking about. It's our favorite band. I got into I posted something on Facebook today. I think it was the Shout Out Loudcasters, and I was talking about a band called Shooting Gallery. Well, I was lucky enough to see Kiss in the Revenge tour, the Revenge Club tour, and the Revenge Club tour, and on my 20th birthday, was coming up, 30 years ago, 1992. And I put on there, and then I had some comments, like most of them were positive, like, oh yeah. And then I said something about Hanoi Rocks, and that started another tangent. They're not really one of my favorites, but the guy played me a clip. I was like, that's a good song. I'll give him a try. Well, this other guy got on, don't know him, from Adam. And he says, well, anything Kiss did after 1979, anything after 1979 is just fluff and crap or something like that. It's selling out. And I went back and forth. I go, well, there's some of us that appreciate the 90s and 80s and stuff like that. But I got to defend Paul and Gene on this one, because they get so much crap for playing the same set list. But then you have comments like that's saying anything past 79 ain't worth listening to. So they're appeasing the ones they think they're most, and they have a point. So I got to defend them on that with, the set list. But I mean, I agree, it's tired sometimes, but it's a lot better it was at the end of the reunion tour, if you ask me, or not the farewell tour, the first farewell tour.
Farewell tour, yeah.
Farewell tour was. Yeah, but I think they got a point that people don't want to hear deeper stuff. It's tired. The diehards like us want to hear it. But it's like they got a point. It's like people want to hear Dr. Love. They want to hear, I mean, people they didn't want to. I mean, they played Strutter in Dubai. That was like, ooh, that's another. But it's something. Dubai. But I mean, but I'm trying to. It's like, it's like I'm not defending them, because it's. I mean, hearing Hide Your Heart's great, but to a lot of people, they don't want to hear that. They rather hear Deuce, and they haven't played. How long has they still play? I mean, they still play Deuce, right? I can't remember September. I'm trying to think of one they haven't.
I think that was still on the list.
I'm trying to think of what they haven't played in a while. And there's a lot of diehards that would like to hear that stuff from the 70s more than Hide Your Heart or even Domino or Unholy. So they're doing the stuff that's safe for them, and they're damned either way. They play something new, I don't want to hear it. They play something old, they don't go deep enough. So you can't win.
Well, here's
Soapbox
my thing.
Over.
Here's my thing, and we're gonna throw our, not obligatory, but we seem to do it every episode. We throw a shout out to Shout Out Loudcast, which with good reason. But their annual March Madness tournament was, what song should they add to the set list? It's not on the set list, and it was a classic song that won. It was "I Stole Your Love," but the conversation with that, can Paul sing that anymore? I don't know if he can. I mean, that's just like saying, if can you imagine? And nothing to get, and I've said this, and people don't think I'm coming down on Paul. He's had a great voice for all these years, and he uses it every night. So obviously something's going to happen to it. You're not going to have Paul Stanley from the Alive days. You're not going to have that voice. Can you imagine though if they try to do it? I Still Love You right now.
Yeah.
And as great as he was on the unplugged version and Live 3 version with I Still Love You, gosh, it would not be good. But time takes its toll. That's just
well,
that's
none of
just
them.
what happened.
None of them can really. None of them. The guys up there can really. I saw Coverdale a few years ago with Whitesnake, and I loved Whitesnake. But they had a bass player, and I think he left the band, but he was covering a lot of Coverdale stuff.
Yeah.
Like Gene does with Paul. Yeah. And I really think the stuff with Bon Jovi is missing Richie. Like when Van Halen missed Michael. And you think you want to talk, and we talked about this earlier, you want to talk about criticism coming up? Wait till the Motley Crue starts. There's
nobody to cover.
There's already memes going out like, Vince Neil, hearing the new Bon Jovi and go, I like this guy. He's pretty good. But that's going to be a big tour, and you just wait. You think Bon Jovi got criticized? It's going to be brutal, so to say.
You talking about Bon Jovi, and there's been some more posts about it. And one post was talking about it might be a medical condition. Some guy that I'm not going to say his name, but I was reading a lot of posts about it. There's something he knows. Said he's pretty sure there's something medically going on with him right now, and it's a matter of time before it clears up. And it kind of, I don't know if you watch him when he's singing it, he's struggling. It's all he can do to get it out, and it kind of makes you think that might be something medically we're going on right now. And I don't know. I
know he's 10 years older than me, so he's 60.
Yeah,
but honestly, I know they get a lot of they get a lot of stuff about it, but I know Paul couldn't sing, and I've been listening to him, and I'm one of those people that don't care. Yeah, I know. I'm not. I can't sing, so. But I
went to see them in 2015, and I enjoyed it just as much as I would. Maybe not as much as I would if it was in '77 because they were at their prime then. But I loved it just as much as I did any other time. But
the only time I have a problem with bands is when they mail it in. Kiss isn't mailing it in.
Yeah, they're not mailing it in.
Somebody said that there are a lot more explosions than there used to be, and that's true. But they still put on a hell of a show. Somebody that's never seen Kiss, and like you're taking your kid or whatever, they're going to be amazed. They may not know half the songs, but they're going to be amazed. And this Bon Jovi, I'm not familiar, but what may have saved him was the crowd. Like that, my friend's video.
That crowd overtook it.
my friend Sebastian, who I failed to mention, we were talking about Left Leppard because that's his favorite band. He listens to the podcast. Well, thanks a lot for mentioning me. It's like, oh yeah. Forgot about it. You're the one that really kind of got me into Def Leppard big time back when we were in high school. Sorry. Hey, Sebastian, hope you're listening. But I don't know. I don't care because those guys, you're like Kiss. I saw them 3 times this last tour. Are they what they were? And even when I got into them in 1990, no, that's, to me, that's there. But it's like, I'm not going to see them again. So it's like, I'm not going to see them again, and I do need to support new music. And I think doing this podcast with you turned me on to a lot of new stuff. Listening to the Growing Up podcast with Sonny, I listen to a lot of new music I wouldn't listen to, and I think that I'm going to go see Fozzy. That's new for me. They've been around a while, but that's new for me, and stuff like that. But it's like we got to support it, or it's going to go away. But the bands I've always followed, it's never been a big deal to me if they can't sing. I can hear it, don't get me wrong, but I guess it's more the music relies on. Like, Coverdale wasn't what he was when I saw him in 1990, but Tommy Aldrich was the drummer and the guitar players and stuff like that. He doesn't have Vandenberg anymore, but I think maybe it's more the music for me. And there's a lot of people say that lyrics don't matter. I don't know if singing really matters as much to me. Like when it's bad and you know, they can take it out and stuff like that. But I noticed about, I'll shut up now, but when I noticed about Sammy Hagar, seeing him in July, he knows his limits. He doesn't try to be what he was
Yeah.
even in
Yeah.
1985. David Lee Roth, he still tries to push the thing. Sammy knows you get to the point and you try to change it. I mean, if you could combine Sammy and David into one person, that would be the greatest front man of all, the singing and the charisma and stuff like that. But I mean, we all have our faults, but like I said, I guess it's not so much the voice, and I may kind of get backlash for that, and a lot of it's the music, you hear that riff of Still the
Yeah.
Night. It's like, okay. And that's,
Oh yeah. Heck yeah. But before we get back to the Rod Stewart recap,
sorry.
did you see this? No, it's fine. This is what it's all about, bud. I mean, it's just like having a conversation. That's what it's all about. Did you see the story about Alex Van Halen trying to get like a Van Halen tribute together with Roth and, of all people, the bass player Jason Newsted?
Mm-hmm.
So, and who was it? Who were they talking to? I can't remember who they were talking to about playing guitar. Was it Satriani?
Yes, Satriani is the one that he confirmed Jason Newsted. I put it on the fly there. I shared it there. I didn't mention anything about Sammy, which I guess there's still some bad blood between. Like, did it mention anything about him or David or Michael?
No, I didn't ever hear anything. So I think there's still bad blood. Oh, I know there's still bad blood between Hagar and Roth because Hagar will take a shot at him every chance he gets.
But I think maybe it may not so much be Alex doing this. I think it may be more Roth, because Roth, I mean, Sammy shows him up. I mean, that's, Sammy shows, I mean, maybe not move wise, but like singing, I think David's a little, because David could never really do Sammy songs, but then Sammy comes out, I'm never doing another David Lee Roth era song again. I'm like, well, that sucks. But I mean, and it may be there's some bad blood between Alex and Michael. I mean, they treated Michael like crap.
They sure did.
And maybe Michael feels something, and maybe Sammy feels a loyalty to Michael. But I mean, Eddie's gone, the heart and soul of that band next to Alex. Put aside your differences. We're not going to be here. And from what I heard, David Lee Roth was having health crisis. Or health issues. That's why he canceled Vegas. Yeah. I mean, they're not getting any younger. Put it away, man. Just do it for Eddie. Put all that stuff. I mean, David Lee Roth and Sammy toured together. They can do it one more time.
It just gets to the point where, I mean, these guys are in their 70s, and take it for what it's worth, but you're being real petty, holding grudges like this for all these years. Because like you said, I don't want you to come out, Lord forbid, anytime soon, one of them passes away and the other one's sitting there going, oh man, he was a great guy, great performer, wish we'd have done something. Well, you got a chance to, do it, try to put it aside and do it.
And evidently Sammy and Eddie made up before he died. He was talking about Howard. He was stern that. And Michael never did. Michael never had that chance, and he felt guilty. He felt bad about that. But I mean, I don't think any of us knew how sick he was. I mean, it surprised me he died. I mean, I knew he was there, but I knew he had the cancer and stuff. But it was kind of shocking when he died. I was like, I knew he had a history of cancer and stuff like that. But I was kind of, oh wow, you know what I mean? It's like, that sucks.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? And this is, I guess it's like, and we're getting to the age now where a lot of the guys we followed, and we talked about this last week or in another episode, we were, it's getting to a point now where a lot of these guys that we grew up with, it was part of our childhood, they're get to that age where any day now for anybody, you're not promised another day, but it's more likely with the age you're getting now that they're not going to be around too much longer. But you keep your fingers crossed on that.
And what's really sad is guys our age aren't going to be around. We're not going to. There's nobody really besides maybe Dave Grohl and Eddie Vedder, that are still around. Like you have Mick Jagger and all these guys from a previous. I mean, you don't have Lane Staley, you don't have Kurt Cobain, you don't have Scott Weiland. I mean, that's what kind of and Chris Cornell. That's what bugs me, is that we're not going to have that thing to where, we're going to 60. We can't go see we can't go see Nirvana. Well, Nirvana or like Soundgarden. That's I think we're gonna miss out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these great I think that's why these bands are so popular still. I mean, can you imagine Stone Temple Pilots still around with Wyland? They'd still be playing arenas like Foo Fighters, but there's a void between the grunge era and what goes now, and like Kiss, the Stones. That's why those bands are still so big, because to a lot of people, that's the last big rock and roll bands. And you don't have, like we were talking about on the Daughtry episode, you don't have that 5-10 year window to build yourself up. You're lucky to get a hit, and after that, I mean, you're a one-hit wonder, even though you have great songs on that album, but they won't play you.
That's right. That's right.
That's why we need to get out and support new music.
Exactly.
Like our buddies at Decibel Geek said, go out and support new music.
Exactly. And I will tell you this, I did for it, and then we'll get back to this. We'll finish up the Rod Stewart recap. Tame and Sorry, which is a Warren Meredith who has been on the show a couple of times. Well, actually, we've got a show coming up with him that I taped before with the Black Sabbath top 10 when we do that Battle of 64 there. Got their vinyl. Exciting for a band like that, a band that's come up and coming, trying to get their way up. But can you imagine to get your first vinyl pressed and to get it out there, to see it out there? I got that this week. I put the video of me taking it out on, which I got a big, card. We got a card from them for thank you for it and Crime of Passion. And Warren's a good guy. And I have the scoop on some stuff from them, and I can't let the cat out of the bag yet, but hopefully big news for Tame and Sorry, and hopefully we'll have Warren on again. Maybe we'll have some of the other guys on too, but they're an up band. If you haven't checked them out yet, check them out. Tame and Sorry. I think it's www.tameandsorry, and that's SARI.com. And check them out on Apple Music. They're on Spotify, Apple. They got that kind of bluesy rock sound, and he is just an encyclopedia of music knowledge as well as Warren. So check them out. Like I said, the vinyl's out there. If you want to order some vinyl, go to the website. I think they still have a few left, so check them out. So let's get back to Rod Stewart. We're like Tom and Zeus, and we keep going, which we're not talking about porn stars. But
we can Ron Jeremy top 10.
Yeah. So I don't want to talk about it versus Weak, and no surprise there. I don't want to talk about it with 95% of the vote. Then Love Touch from Legal Eagles versus Leave Virginia Alone, and I forgot about Leave Virginia Alone until I was looking through the songs. But Love Touch with 70% of the vote moves on.
Leave Virginia Alone almost sounds like a Tom Petty. Because
I think
it's kind of going for that. Tom Petty was real huge around that time. And I remember because he does a Mavericks song on that album too. And it's like, man, he's covering the Mavericks. And I thought it was the Tom Petty song when I first heard it.
So Reason to Believe versus Stone Cold Sober. And, everybody knows Reason to Believe was really a Wilson Phillips song. And, how we have to mention China Phillips. Zeus, we hear you out there, buddy. We're
just hold on, Steve.
Just hold on.
Hold on. Don't be so impulsive. Sorry.
You won't see me cry. Reason to Believe gets the win, 84% of the vote. Then Infatuation versus Dynamite.
Good songs, both of them.
Yeah, both are good songs. But 86% of the vote goes to Infatuation. And then probably one of our closer battles in the first round, Seems Like a Long Time versus A Night Like This. And I don't know if you saw who won this one, but it got 51% of the vote.
Close.
A Night Like This moves on. And that, I like seeing the close battles, but in the first round of these things, and most of the time it's lopsided until you get to the next round, and then you have some better battles.
One thing I want to mention, you mentioned Infatuation, and I was reading some of the comments and people were talking, Infatuation hands down. Hey, did you know Jeff Beck plays guitar in that song? was like, well, if you would have listened to the podcast,
Exactly.
there's a little bit of trivia there. We won't tell you what it is.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to it. But we talked
Listen.
about Jeff Beck.
And you can check us out on Apple Podcasts. You can check us out on our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify,
Instagram,
Podchaser. Soon to be taking over the Instagram. We're gonna try to get more of a presence on Instagram. I've never been that big on Instagram, but I'm gonna turn it over to Ward and let him.
Steve doesn't know yet, but I got bikini shots of him that they were secretly sent to me. So that's going to be the big hashtag coming out next week.
Oh my God! Did not know those leaked out. I mean,
I know.
On,
you were young. You needed the money. Sorry.
Yeah, I needed the money. So every picture tells a story versus it's over. And this was one of the more lopsided ones here. 97%, every picture tells a story. Which it should be.
That song should be. Yeah, that is you talk about a signature Rod Stewart song. And that almost made, I don't know if it was in my top 10, but I love that song.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. I need to go back and listen to the podcast like I just told everybody else to. So I'll do that right after the show.
I know I'm losing you versus I'd rather go blind. And I know I'm losing you wins with 94% of the vote.
Yes, that was in my top 10.
Yeah. Have I told you lately versus Lady Day? And have I told you lately? No surprise there. 95% of the vote there.
We forgot to mention. I think we forgot to mention it was like in your top 10.
Forgot what?
That's a Van Morrison song. Have I told you lately? Van Morrison does that song before Rod Stewart.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, because I remember we talked about it. And I was in your top 10, and I was like, "Hey, did you know Van Morrison?" I'm sure you did.
His version was on a movie. What was that movie? It was that freaking aggravating British guy. He was big until he was with the hooker. Hugh Grant.
I thought you were talking about Russell. Wait, Russell
Crowe?
Yeah. No, Russell. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, he was. Yeah, it's another offensive British guy. He was in Get Him to the Greek. I forget his name, but he married Katy Perry, and he actually cheated on Katy Perry. If that's not offensive.
Russell Brand.
If that's not offensive on Katy Perry, back before she went blonde, she was hot as a brunette. But it's yeah. But that's another story.
Hugh Grant. It was on the 9 Months soundtrack. I think. I may be wrong about that, but I know
that was on that. Well, I knew that Stone song was on there. Your 19th Nervous Breakdown, because of course Stones. But I didn't know that. I knew that was. I knew it was a Rod Stewart song.
I may be wrong about that. I'm sitting here thinking about it. I think that's. But I know I've heard the Van Morrison version on a soundtrack, and it may not be 9 months, but anyway, going up next. First Cut is the Deepest versus If I Had You, and First Cut is the Deepest gets almost 96% of the vote.
I think that's another cover. I think that's
Sheryl Crow.
Well, I know her.
Did that too.
Yeah, but I think it was.
Yeah, you know her. It was I know it was both of them were covers.
Yeah, but I think wasn't that a Cat Stevens? Was that a Cat Stevens cover? I think it's a Cat Stevens song. I think so. Because everybody goes, "Oh, I love the new Sheryl Crow song." It's like that's a Rod Stewart song. No, it's a Cat Stevens. Yeah, but Rod Stewart made it popular. It's a Cat Stevens song. I think it is.
Yeah.
Nerd alert me.
Killing of Georgie versus Nerd alert versus Almost Illegal. Killing of Georgie gets to win 80% of the vote.
Which was a big controversial song.
My heart can't tell it was very. I remember as a kid hearing that, and my mom was not a big Rod Stewart fan. I don't know what it was. I think she got offended by Hot Legs or something like that.
Yeah, we said that before. She let you look at these demon-looking Kiss guys, but not Rod Stewart.
Yeah, like I said, she lets me listen to a guy that spits blood and breathes fire and calls himself the Demon. So, I mean, but no Rod Stewart because he sang Hot Legs. Yeah. But I remember The Killing of Georgie as a kid growing up, but my heart can't tell versus Crazy About Her.
Oh man,
what were you saying?
I said, excuse me. But the thing about Killing of Georgie, you get so pissed off. People get so pissed off, but they don't. It's kind of like a Suicide Solution in a sense, because they see the name title, and it's what the people tell them about it. Yeah. The Suicide Solution is at the anti-suicide. Killing a Georgie is about,
And
hey,
then
you
that's
may be
yeah,
gay, but you be you, I be you. People deserve to be happy. You know what I mean? You don't have any right to tell anybody else how they should live. You know, don't get me in that Twisted Sister mood.
that's
We're not going
right.
to take it. You know, but it's if people
We're not
have
gonna take.
if people would sit there and take the time to listen to something and form their own opinion, but this is mass hysteria. You know, it's like John Lennon when he said, well, we're more popular than Jesus. Well, yeah, they put Jesus to death. You think about it. Well, like, you know what I mean? It's like he didn't mean anything by that. He was trying to get something across, but people don't listen to what the man was saying. They just assume what
It gets
everybody else says
twisted.
about it. Yes, it does. Which is another great song by Kanye.
And let me tell you
Kanye
that
Roberts.
you you bring up John Lennon, and guys that and on the podcast, you've listened to me talk about the album challenge I'm doing, and I'm still doing it. I've just kept on doing it because I want to listen to new stuff that I haven't really listened to. So one of the albums that popped up on my list, John Lennon, Double Fantasy, and I did not realize, and I've never, all these years, I've never realized that it says John Lennon and Yoko Ono, Double Fantasy. So I start listening to it, and I'm okay. First, first song John Lennon sings is what's the name of it? What was the big hit off that one? It's not
It's not
Woman, but
Imagine.
the
Was it
other one.
Imagine?
No, it wasn't Imagine. It
A
was a
woman,
kind of
maybe?
a no, it wasn't Woman. Gosh, what was it? Hold on, I'll tell you right now in a minute. Um, and I always rank them like 1 to 5 when I
Yeah.
hear them, just initial, and just like starting over. That's what it was. So I'm listening. It'll be just like starting
Okay. Yeah, I
over.
know it.
Yeah. So the next song was called Kiss, Kiss, Kiss. And it said, beside it, it said Yoko Ono. I listened to about 30 seconds of it. One. Kiss, 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 kiss. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Just give me the John Lennon. And I noticed looking through it, because I always look at how long when I'm listening to it, I look at how long the song lasts. And I noticed that most of the Yoko songs were like under 3 minutes. And I was like, I think there's a reason why. I think, I
That's
think
all
these
the
guys
engineer could. That's all the engineer could stand. Okay, we got to cut this stuff
exactly,
short.
exactly. I'm like, yeah, good
You
job,
gotta,
buddy.
you
Thanks for
gotta
looking
kind
out
of,
for us.
you gotta kind of remember. I mean, John Lennon loved this woman. I mean, she
Oh
was by
yeah.
him when he died and stuff like that. And supposedly when you watch the Beatles documentary that came on Disney, I guess this last year.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
I have not either. I
But
got to watch
supposedly
it.
it paints her in a whole different light, that maybe it wasn't so much her, but maybe the other wives. Because I mean, and it's
Oh,
like, when you're married, you're gonna please, it's not on any one person. The Beatles had a lot of issues besides that, and she gets a bad rap for that. And even Paul McCartney said that. But you ask about John Lennon, and it's funny, out of all the Beatles, he used to be my favorite. And then I watched the Julian Lennon documentary, and I just, and supposedly they made
oh
up kind of
yeah.
before he died and stuff like that. But I mean, he's probably the fourth out of the group. I listened to Ringo before I went John Lennon. Ringo had some great songs. And I mean, I know that, people are like, what song? You know what I mean? But I mean, of course, it's Paul, George, Ringo, and then John. But together,
Yeah.
there was more with that
Yeah.
band. But
I've heard a lot about the way he treated Julian
yeah,
as compared to the son, Sean. He was
yeah,
always
and
pushing Sean,
that
and
really
not
that really hit home for me because that yeah, and he was bitter for a long time. But you know what? He doesn't treat Yoko bad. He doesn't treat Sean bad. He
no.
he had a lot of therapy, but he's a lot better. But I mean, it's. I'm glad to see him. He's not. He saw that documentary, and it kind of painted his dad, that he kind of saw his dad, that his dad was actually trying to make amends with him because Yoko was pushing him to. And well, this is what I heard. I haven't seen it yet,
Right.
but and he sees that now, and he goes, "I wish I would have known that." So there's a lot of discoveries on that, It's like you were saying about the Van Halen tribute. I mean, we need to put this stuff behind.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's
Yeah.
you're getting older every day. It's time to
Starting to sound like a TED Talk, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So let's move on.
Okay.
This is the matchup with your number one. People Get Ready versus I Was Only Joking, which was your number one. And People Get Ready edges it out 54% of the vote. So that was one of
At
the
least it was somewhat close.
Yeah, it was close. I mean, for a while there, I Was Only Joking was winning, but then People Get Ready pulled ahead.
It's because I voted like 500 times. Like I said,
I think we had a burner account, somebody's burner account, and they pulled a Taylor.
I called in the reinforcement. I called in the reinforcements to help me out. Yeah, I Was Only Joking is probably one of my favorite songs, but People Get Ready. I think that's an old blues song or something like that.
And there was
I think Jeff Beck actually does play on that song.
There was a couple of people who were talking about I Was Only Joking should be one guy said it should win the whole freaking thing. And that may have been your burner account, but
that was mine. Yeah, but I mean, you weren't too familiar with that song when we talked about it, right?
No,
like it didn't stand out.
But it's not a bad
I think that's it. It wasn't as a big a hit as You Wear It Well or Hot Legs and stuff. I don't think it should have been, but he had so many great songs at that time. I mean, it's like he probably had You Wear It Well around, and stuff like that. And I've already been recruited to pick my next album review that they're going to do. So, yeah. So you may be hearing more about that.
Yeah, which we did get some. We did get some celebrity talk on Twitter through that with Zeus. Of course, Zeus from Shout Out Loudcaster retweeted, and we thank Zeus for. We thank Zeus and Tom for all the attention they gave us because Tom made comments as well. But of all people that liked some of the conversation when we were talking about that, Chris Jericho, who is freaking awesome as a wrestler and a performer with Flythe. He liked one of the tweets in that conversation. So, on the fly, it's moving up.
He likes Rod Stewart,
that's like,
I
would say
this,
that's like the second time. That's the second time Jericho has liked a tweet in my conversation. I remember we were tweeting about Tom and Zeus and Sonny Pooney were doing the Detonator Rat album review, and I was talking about how the favorite part of the whole thing was Tom and Zeus trying to do Stephen Pearcy vocals, and that was pretty awesome there. So, Lost in You versus Camouflage, and Lost in You gets the win, 92% of the vote. Rhythm of My Heart versus Sailing, 60% of the vote. Rhythm of My Heart takes the win.
Really? I didn't see that one.
60% of the vote. Yeah.
So something past 1979, actually, that was on my list, made it. And Sailing's a great song. And I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess I must have missed that one, but wow.
Yeah. Forever Young versus Country Comfort, and Forever Young with almost 93% of the vote.
Wow, that's a good song. You're
in My Heart versus Tomorrow's a Long Time. That's 91% of the vote to the You're in My Heart. Mandolin Wind versus Ooh La La. And Mandolin Wind gets 75% of the vote.
It's a good song.
The Motown Song versus This. And the Motown Song gets 89% of the vote with the win. Do You Think I'm Sexy? Don't answer that question. Versus To Love Somebody.
Why, Steve, I've been meaning to tell you.
Well, you did say you had bikini shots of me. So
yes, I do. And wait till you see Sexy, man. You're bringing it back, dude. That's all I got to say. Stay tuned. Yeah.
Do You Think I'm Sexy versus To Love Somebody? And, Do You Think I'm Sexy? 80% of the vote.
It beat To Love Somebody. That's because that's a Bee Gees song. That's a very good Bee Gees song.
Yeah. Maggie May versus Every Beat of My Heart. Maggie May gets 85% of the vote there.
Which is not, I mean, that's not justice to that song because it's against, a goat. I mean, Every Beat of My Heart's a great song off a great album for the 80s.
People see Maggie May and they're going,
exactly.
unless you're like a diehard Rod Stewart fan like you are, you're going to be like, okay, Maggie May, I'm voting for that.
Yeah.
But
we don't
Broken
have
Arrow.
we don't have time for a 10-hour podcast. We got to work tomorrow. So
Yeah. Broken Arrow versus Trouble. And Broken Arrow gets the win, 76% of the vote. Young Turks versus Time. And Young Turks with 97% of the vote.
it's a good song.
Yeah. This Old Heart of Mine versus True Blue. And This Old Heart of Mine gets 91% of the vote, moves on. Stay With Me versus Italian Girls with 95% of the vote. Stay With Me.
Yes, as it should be.
Some Guys Have All the Luck versus Human, and this is probably one of the most lopsided one. Almost 98% of the vote goes to Some Guys Have All the Luck. Passion versus If Only, and Passion with 86% of the vote.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting near the end now, guys. Downtown Train versus Get Back, and Downtown Train gets 97% of the vote. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
2 covers battling it out.
So now the 32, Tonight's the Night versus Baby Jane. Obviously, just looking, Tonight's the Night might move on there. All for Love versus You Wear It Well. That may be an interesting matchup there.
You Wear It Well. That's got to win.
I think you're right there. Hot Legs versus I Don't Want to Talk About It. I bet Hot Legs wins out.
Hot Legs. That's just rock and roll royalty there.
Yeah. Love Touch versus Reason to Believe. Ooh.
Reason to Believe.
China Phillips moves on.
Well, Daryl Hannah was pretty hot in '86, or was it '80 when Legal Eagles came out? So that's what I think of.
Deborah Winger was the other one in that, right? And it was
she was too. I forgot about that.
Deborah Winger was the other one.
Yeah, I remember Daryl Hannah from like Roxanne and stuff.
Roxanne is a great movie. I love Roxanne. That's one of my sleeper movies there. Steve Martin does a great job in that. Infatuation versus A Night Like This.
Infatuation.
Every Picture Tells a Story versus I Know I'm Losing You.
Oh, why do you do this to me? They're both in my top 10, man.
That's going to be a good matchup there.
Well, yeah.
Have I Told You Lately versus The First Cut's Deepest? That should be interesting.
That'd be a good matchup.
There. The Killing of Georgie versus My Heart Can't Tell You No. Georgie probably move on there.
I disagree. I don't know. With Sarah Evans doing that cover, he does a great version. So that's just,
she does. Talk about
that is a great version that Desmond Child and Paul Stanley should have wrote. And I like to say that would be a big hit, but Turn on the Night should have been too, and it didn't happen. So
you talk about a hottie there, Sarah Evans.
Diane Warren, right? Didn't she write that song? Diane Warren wrote that song. Yeah. That's
somebody that just can write a song. I don't know how she does it, how she wrote all this. Her and David Foster. Geez. People Get Ready versus Lost in You.
Lost in You for me. I love that song.
Yeah. Rhythm of My Heart versus Forever Young. I think Forever Young is going to take that.
Off the same album too.
Yep.
No, out of order. Never mind. That's really okay. No, that's totally.
See, I'm not familiar. I'm just agreeing with what. Yep.
No, Rhythm of My Heart. No, that was on Vagabond Heart. Okay.
You're in My Heart versus Mandolin Wind.
You're in My Heart.
Yeah, the Motown song versus Do You Think I'm Sexy? I think Do You Think I'm Sexy?
Oh, yeah.
Maggie May versus Broken Arrow.
Maggie May.
And then Young Turks versus This Old Heart of Mine.
Ooh. Are you like, well, I guess people don't mind, but I mean, are you doing the 1990 version of This Old Heart of Mine or like the 1972 version?
The 1990 version.
And that should win.
I guess that's what people are going by because that's what I intended.
The original, like we talked about, is just slow.
Yeah. Stay With Me versus Some Guys Have All the Luck.
Oh man, another top 10. 2 of mine top 10.
Yeah. So you did pretty
good.
You
got to be Stay With Me. That's like Hot Legs. That's rock and roll royalty.
Passion versus Downtown Train in the last matchup of the
Downtown Train.
Yeah. So we'll have that up. Probably we'll have the second round up there tomorrow. So make sure if you don't have a Twitter, get one if you want to vote. And check us out.
Have insurance for that nowadays.
Yeah. Follow us at On the Fly. And that's Flythe. It's not Flythe. Like I'm not. I always said, when we go to like, you know, if you go to like the hospitals, I remember the first time I really noticed that we were at the hospital. I think my granddad was in the hospital or something, and they came out and said, "Mr. Flythe, Mr. Flythe." I was like, "Who the heck is Mr. Flythe?" And I always said, if it's Flythe when they're rich or from up north, and I'm neither one of them, so it's just
You can call
Fly.
me what you want.
Just call me Fly. Just don't call me Filthy. We have been
So that's
called
how you
that
pronounce it?
before.
Is it Fly?
Yeah, just Fly. THE is silent. So
Okay.
don't ask me why they put the
I
THE.
didn't know that because I always call you Steve or whatever,
Yeah. Don't
Yeah, and
ask me why they put the THE up there. I don't
well, you're
know.
one of the few people that actually gets my name right, Warden. You said it
Warden.
and other ones get it too when they read it on their episodes, like, oh, they got it right because they want to say Worden. It's like,
Weirdy.
no, it's Warden, and it's
Yeah.
pronounced, but it's spelled Warden, but it's pronounced Warden.
So now that we took care of that, now it's time for the main event. And this is going to be interesting because it's stuff that we like. We're just going to talk about stuff we like, whether it's music, uh, movies, just stuff that we like, and some stuff that you may not know we like. Of course, some things are going to pop up that you really didn't know we liked because we used to. It's one couple of things I used to like that I probably don't like as much anymore. But anyway, all right. So let's get you started. Let's let you go first. And I mean, I don't know what you've got wrote down as far as are you categorizing it, music
No, I
movies?
did a list. I did a list and of what I liked, and I put it in order because
Okay. Well, let's just start off
I'm
from your
anal like that.
bottom
I
to the
like, oh, it's
top.
got to be a number one. Okay. Now, what we're gonna do here is there's two things I have to expel that would probably be guilty pleasures, quote unquote, for other people, but not us. And that's like
Yeah.
hair metal,
Yeah.
hair bands,
Absolutely.
and that kind of stuff, and also wrestling. Because I mean, I've tried to quit watch wrestling. I mean, my whole life, and I mean, like I said, and it's like I still watch it. Yes, Four Horsemen. I mean, and it's like, I mean, and I still watch AEW because of Jericho, but I still watch the
Yeah.
WWE because it's $5 to watch WrestleMania, and Stone
Yeah. I
Cold
watched it.
came back, so he's hasn't wrestled ever, and every bald-headed mark in the state like me was cheering him, and so those are out of my list. I don't really consider that. I mean, because then you can call Kiss a hair band, you can call Aerosmith a hair band. That's out for my
Everybody.
list.
Everybody knows we pretty much if unless you haven't watched the show and
Yeah.
people may not have, but we're big on hair bands
Well,
or whatever you want to
that
call
may
it.
be somebody else's because I have a lot of my friends. One of my best friends, Steve, he calls it Warden Rock because it's back in the day when we'd go out and you'd hear Warden Rock at a certain establishment. It's like, oh, there's Warden Rock. And I sent him that meme. I don't know if you saw it about like Vinny Kiss and stuff about that. And I sent it to him, and my buddy Charlie, he's older than me. He's like worse than me, but he don't like and stuff like that. I go, is this right, Chuck? And he goes, yeah, but I don't like that Vinnie Vincent Invasion. They're not a very good band and stuff. I don't care. I know he was part of Kiss, and I wrote him back, dude, that's Kiss. Oh, and see, they all look the same, and it's like,
yeah,
he likes the metal, but he's not into the hair bands like I am. So that's why it's like, hey, it's Warden Rock. So, and if it comes to Kiss, I mean, that's an unwritten, like in baseball, unwritten rule. So, okay. My number 10, and this is what I like to do a lot, and this may not be a guilty pleasure, but if I'm ever feeling kind of stressed out and, stuff, I go on like on a road trip. I'll drive somewhere, get in the car, maybe take the dog with me. She loves it. And just because I live on the kind of the outskirts of town, they're building up out here, but I can drive like 5 minutes. I'm in the country and stuff like that. So when I'm kind of going through something like kind of depressing, like when my brother passed away a few years ago, one thing with him, I left him like kind of his taste in music. A lot of his music came from me and stuff. And a lot of it had to do with country because I listened to country back in the day. Right. And I'll put on like some music that means a lot to me, and I'll take a drive somewhere. Austin's about 45 minutes away from here, and if you've heard of Austin, that's the capital of Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. The weird about Austin is that it's different than the rest of Texas, but it's its capital. So go figure. But that's me. I'll get in the thing. I'll go to like they call HEBs down here stores. I'll go to one that's maybe 30 minutes away down the road instead of going to one that's 10, just to kind of clear my head, put on an album and stuff like that. Like that really helped me one time when this girl that I really, really liked a lot, and she got married, and I knew the day this is years ago, got married. I put on Modern Love by Bowie because it was to tell me, no, you always projected you never wanted to get married. And I don't know, that's why it didn't work out, but it was songs like that kind of take my mind off it. So the music goes with the road trip and it just clears my head. There ain't nothing like a good old road trip.
It's funny, and I guess this will be my first guilty pleasure or whatever you want to call it. You take a road trip, but when I've got something like on my mind or stressing me, I guess you could call me Forrest Gump Jr. I go for a run. I can remember going through a breakup, and girl I really, really liked. We had a breakup, and put the headphones on. Lived right across the street from the school. We had like not really a track, but I remember in high school what the coach made us run around, and I knew how many was a mile, and I hadn't ran in a while, and I just started running. And I was like Forrest Gump, and I was running, and I just kept on. I kept on for like an hour, and it cleared my head. And to this day, I may not run as fast as I used to, or I may be like, but yeah.
You saw my picture. I joined that group and stuff, and they were running, and I was like, oh, I thought you said rum.
But yeah, that's really, and and I do it now. I need to get back into it where I was, because I was running at one time. I got to where I was running a lot, and I was like, let's see if we can do like a marathon, a half marathon. Start that out. And I got up to where I could run 6 miles, 7 miles at a time. And unfortunately, when you get out of it, it's hard to get back into shape. I wish it was easy to get back into shape as you can get out of it, but it's not. So
now you know why I take road trips and you run, because I'm not that good shape.
I take my own road trip like Forrest Gump. Yeah. So, but yeah, that running clears my head. That's one of my, I guess, my things I will do. I run a lot, not as much as I used to right now, but I'm getting back into it.
Well, you got those warrants taken care of, so you're not running from the law anymore, right? You didn't fight
the law. We're all good there.
Okay, good. Okay. You didn't fight the law, and the law won.
I'll tell you a funny story. When I was running one night, and this is a small town, rural area. You can run on the road, and nobody will come up on you. But I'm running, and this motorcycle comes by me, and I'm like, and I look up, and he slows down and turns around. And I'm like, oh crap, what's going to happen here?
Was it cop?
It was a guy I knew. He's like, he just pulled over and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm running." He said, "From what?" I was like, "Actually, there was a bear back there, and I was running from it." He was like, I said, "I'm running for the heck of it." He was like, funny. "Why?" Yeah. But that was pretty funny. So, moving on.
All right. My next one. This kind of I think you kind of know it well, but not a people that know me, because when they find out that I like country music, they're like, you? And I'm like, yeah, there's some artists that I like that are like, if we ever do the top 10, when we do the top 10 artists, Gary Allen will be in there.
Oh yeah.
George Strait will be in there. And me and Zeus actually had a conversation on his page. He was trying to tell me that George Jones was the best thing to come from Texas. No, George Strait.
You said,
and I have nothing against George Jones. Anybody that drives, to the local store on a lawnmower to get more beer is my kind of guy. But George Strait, especially, I guess, because I'm so close to him, close to where he lives down here, he's royalty down here. I mean, they call him King George down here. And they quit playing. And I mean, when I listen to him, I can listen to Tim McGraw. I can listen to Kenny. I listen to a lot of them. Dwight Yoakam. And people are like, you like that stuff? It's not just Kiss for you or Metallica? It's like, no, it's other stuff. Because like y'all had that episode on the 90s stuff. And you guys are right. That 90s stuff was some of the best country music. Of course, I have some friends like, oh my God, that stuff's horrible. But I mean, it's like, I loved it. I mean, and I went and saw Shania Twain.
Like.
I went and saw Shania Twain. I went and saw Tim McGraw. I saw the Dixie Chicks, George Strait. I mean, it was like a George Strait was playing. He used to play here in San Antonio. He's actually playing in Austin, but not here anymore because the city pretty much shuts down like if it gets below 60. But I mean, he had the Dixie Chicks on there, or sorry, the Chicks. He had them on there. He had Kenny Chesney, Tim McGraw, I think Jody Messina. I mean, this was one bill. This is a circa 19, and Write This Down was real popular. And I was like, and I paid, I think $150 a ticket, but I was like, God, you're seeing all these future stars. I mean, it's like, and they were all because they're all under George because George is the biggest. I mean, he's up there with Hank Williams, if you ask me, with like influence. And a lot of the stuff I listen to now, my buddies turned me on to Luke Combs. I like Luke Combs because I was a big Toby Keith fan back in the day. And he's got that, I guess they call it bro country to kind of cut it down. But Luke Combs, like you're talking about new music, if you hadn't heard of him and you kind of like that old Dwight Yoakam or Toby Keith, kind of that good outlaw rockin' Gary Allen type country, Luke Combs is a real deal.
And I'll probably go ahead and say country music for me. That's and that 90s, because I'll tell you this, and if you listen to the episode me and Zeus did talking about the 90s, in the 80s, I'm just like one of those guys you're talking about. I'm like, ugh, country music. I'm not listening to that. If you went by the country music on the radio, I was like, poof, turned it quick as I could, so I wouldn't have to hear it. But it all changed when Garth came on. When Garth come out, and I went out and I bought the No Fences cassette, and I'm telling you, from start to finish, that was a great album. And then it just went from there, snowball from there. But you talk about George Strait. I'll tell you what really got me into George Strait was when Pure Country came out, and not the acting in the movie. Don't get me wrong. No offense to George Strait, but he's not going to win any Academy Awards. But it was still it's still an entertaining movie. But the soundtrack, and of course, everybody that listened to it, across my heart was probably 30 million wedding songs that year or the next couple of years.
I played the hell out of it when I DJ'd. Oh yeah.
Cross my heart. George,
you got it.
When he played it at, and that I had to go out and buy the soundtrack, and then it just got me listening to more George. I mean, and I was like, man, this guy. And whenever a CD came out, I bought it. And but yeah, and you talk about Toby Keith. The first country concert I went to was Toby Keith, and Rascal Flatts opened up for Toby Keith. And I like Rascal Flatts. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but yeah, I like Rascal Flatts.
My condolences. I mean, I'm sorry for
that. I know you probably don't agree on that, but yeah, Rascal Flatts was okay with me. But like, and I think Zeus kind of surprised me when we talked about, because Little Texas, I liked Little Texas back then. I was a.
Oh, you talk about a glorified country hair band.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably what turned me on to them, was like this is country hair band.
I don't know if you kind of talking about that. I don't know if you've read Dave Mustaine's book, but he dated this girl he met, and she had no clue who he was. And this is after, I think, around, I don't know when he married her, but it had to be the early 90s. And he met her, and she had no idea what he was, and she really had nothing to do with him because of the hair and stuff. So they're dating and stuff like that, and he doesn't listen to, stuff like that. And she starts playing some of the stuff, and he's like, dear Lord, these are hair bands with fiddles. I mean, he goes, they're all hair bands. And no wonder and you kind of think about country music is still popular. A lot of us that listened to hair bands back in the day, the rock audience kind of fell off, except for its diehards. They're country music fans. Now, I got a friend of mine that works like that. we talk about the old stuff, and she's all into new country, and she goes to all these concerts and everything. I was like, you don't listen to the rock? Oh no, I like country, and it's crossed over. And when Dave Mustaine said that, I was like, oh wow, he's right.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty much what
Yeah,
Little Texas. You're exactly right. They were a hair band with fiddles and country, but yeah, they put
they
them
had a
on.
song. They had a song that used to get me back then. It's a song called "What Might Have Been." That is
Oh
a tear
yes,
jerker. And I remember, and what got me one time when I was all Mr. Rock and Roll in the early '90s. I started working in payroll, and it was all women. So they listen to country all the time, and it's driving me nuts because I want to hear Master of Puppets or Slayer, and stuff. Then I see Shania Twain. I'm like, who's that? And then I listen to it. I'm like, this is Def Leppard. This is where have I heard this before? This
yep.
is Def Leppard. And of course, loving Def
Mutt
Leppard, I
Lang.
fell in love with it. And the thing about, and I got into that stuff, but I'll finish on this one. When somebody handed me a Keith Whitley CD, and I remember Garth talking about Keith
Yeah,
Whitley all the time. When
yeah,
that "Don't Close Your Eyes," when I heard that song for the first time, I freaking started crying. That song hit me so hard because I was kind of, I mean, '80s Jason, with his, "Reason to Live" shirt, or "Turn on the Night," But I heard that and I'm like, oh my god, that was such a great talent, and I can see why Garth revered him so much. And it was that song is just like one of the. I mean, that's oh my god, it makes it. Keith Whitley. I mean, don't know him, Google him. He's great.
yeah. A lot of in the short time he was around, he influenced a lot of people. I remember actually the first time I heard "When You Say Nothing at All"
Yeah,
was Alison Krauss singing.
yeah, that's
Who
a good one.
has, by the way, who has one of the best voices in all of music. I mean, that
Robert
lady
Plant thinks
can
so.
flat
He
out.
won't tour Zeppelin, but he's always on
Yeah,
the road with her.
yeah, and
But hey,
I will tell you this:
have you heard that version of that song with it's duet between the two of them?
is it the latest one album,
No, this has been out. This has been out since the
Raising
'90s.
Sand?
It's no, it's not Robert Plant, but Alison Krauss and the Keith Whitley song. There's a mix out there with
Yeah,
them kind of doing a duet. I didn't know if that was big back
I
then,
have
but
not heard that version. I would
that
love to hear
Google it.
that.
It's the one. It's like her version, and they put his, like the Leanne Rimes song of what was that the song that Trisha Yearwood did on Con Air? "How Do I Live?"
How do I live?
Or the Leanne Rimes version of "How Do I
Leanne
Leave?"
Leanne
And
Rimes and Trisha Yearwood.
but the Leanne Rimes was like, "How do I leave?" And stuff. That's what I always
It
said. That's how
sure
you can
does
tell them
sound like,
apart.
how do I
But
leave without
you you look at it, and I love the Trisha Yearwood because she's great. I love Trisha Yearwood, and you put them
I love
together,
Trisha
and
Yearwood.
they did a duet of those two together, like singing part of it. It was some DJ. I was up in like Ohio or something, and they were playing it. It's probably on YouTube, but it's like you put the original together, and a lot of the covers are real true to the original songs, unless you're like Dwight Yoakam and you do Crazy Little Thing Called Love, which is awesome. So
um, before we go any further, I have to throw a shout out. We got a couple of comments in here from my buddy of mine, Robert Matthews, who joined in a little bit late, but he was talking. He was picking, making some of his picks on the Rod Stewart thing. Fascination. He wanted that, and infatu. Then he said, "No, not fascination. That's not the song." He said, "Infatuation." Sorry. So I was thinking about what was that group that did "Keep Feeling Fascination"? Was that Human League or who was it?
yes. Oh God, yes. That's like second grade. Yeah. Hey man,
Yes.
have we
Only
made
thing
a
is
mention?
the human.
Hey, but have we mentioned Revolting Cocks in a few episodes? We have not.
No, we had not. Oh gosh, we haven't brought them up yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
goes way back to the first
did
episode
you listen to it? That is a
to
good.
the Rod Stewart episode.
You're in a club and you got a couple little drinks in you. Yeah, you dance to that thing. I got the pictures.
Can't you just see it yelling at the DJ? Could you play some Revolting Cocks?
Oh, they were big on the indie scene. They were big. I'd never heard of them before that
We're
song.
not that kind of club,
No.
but
Like in Police Academy, they start
yeah.
dancing.
All right. So we talk both of us on country music. Let's go to
Okay.
another one for you.
Well, this one shouldn't be so surprised because this is how we met. I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts. I've gotten to the part in my age where I used to love to read, but I can't see as good anymore, and I get lazy. I just start skipping down. But I buy Audible or whatever, and I listen to a lot of books. I've listened to Paul's. I've listened to Jericho's. I mean, anybody I like, Joe Perry's. I'll buy that and listen to it, drive in the car, going like I'll drive for a while to listen to it. So I kind of put the audiobooks and the podcasts together. I listen to so many podcasts that I'm starting to like get to know people. And I used to be, part of one with the paranormal podcast we'll talk about later. But yeah, podcasts are my deal because I mean I tried listening to I used to listen to Sirius XM with Eddie Trunk because I like his stuff when he's doing it, but I'm so kind of burned out on XM because they're getting like a radio. They just play the same hits, like a lot of Hair Nation and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I like to hear Eddie. I like to hear Eddie do interviews, but on his podcast, he doesn't play music. So it's like, I like the show because he'll play, hey, listen to this band, and stuff like that. So yeah, podcast, I listen to so many and I belong to so many groups. I mean, when you asked me to stay, I was like, oh, heck yeah, I'd love to do one. You've heard me. I never shut up. So I'm perfect.
Not a problem. Not a problem. But yeah, podcast.
You obviously like them too. So,
this is why. Yeah, obviously. I mean, because I'm always looking for a new podcast to come along, and what I'm doing, when I listen to one, I want information. I want you to, like, when I started off with my sports podcast, when I interviewed somebody, I want to hear these stories that I haven't heard before. I want you to tell me, and a lot of times that happened with somebody, and I was just like, this is freaking awesome. When you interview a guy and he's like telling you, okay, let me tell you what happened here. And, this is what happened on the field. We were, one of the football players. This is what happened on the field when we were getting ready to go out and play so and so, what we were saying. And one of the big things for me when I do a sports like football or basketball, or whoever that player, the first time whether it's college or pro, the first time you ran out on the field, you were in that tunnel waiting to come out on that field. What was the feeling like? Or the first time, if I get to interview somebody that's that played in the Super Bowl, what was it like when we walked out on that field for the first time with, you're on the grand stage, millions watching at home, and all these people that have, and to get that's the kind of information I want to hear. Like when you talk about when I listen to Eddie Trunk sometimes, and I think he was on the Monsters of Rock cruise. And Tesla was up there. Or no, Tesla was not up there. Tommy Skeoch and his new band, Resistant Bite, which if you haven't heard, check them out. I think a lot of people like them. They're pretty good. But Brian Wheat from Tesla was up there as well. Brian Wheat was getting interviewed because I think he was up there because of his, another guy that does art, another rock.
He had a new book come out recently. Was that it? Maybe.
Yeah, but these guys, when Tom left Tesla, it was not on good terms. And, it was, these guys haven't talked or haven't really got together in years.
Who left?
It was Tommy Skeoch. I can't remember how to say his name.
The blonde guitar player, right?
That's how his name is. Guitar player for Tesla.
Okay, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, he was a guitar player. Well, they were interviewing Brian Wheat on that show. And Brian, before the interview started, he saw Tommy sitting there, watching. And, these guys haven't buried the hatchet or anything in years. And all of a sudden, Brian Wheat says, why don't you come on up here with this interview? We'll do this interview together. And, it was just like, when I heard it, the way it went down, I was like, this is freaking awesome here. These guys are burying the hatchet right here live on
that's awesome.
This podcast. And you hear stuff like that and to get the information. Podcasts are great to find out because I was like you. I loved reading books just so I could find out more stuff. Like
And
I
I
said,
know,
the
and I
guy
know,
told me I was a master of useless information. So I add more useless information to my repertoire.
and with Eddie Trunk, he gets a lot of hate for kind of name dropping. But my God, I'd love to be in his position. I never. I mean, I always thought that I would kind of end up that way, to kind of never really learn an instrument. But hell, if Sebastian Bach's thing, I'm going to tell everybody too. Hey, man, Mariah Carey's texting me right now. I mean, I would be like that too. And it's just, and I know the stuff with Ace kind of gets
Well,
there.
the
Like,
thing
dude, I got
about
Ace, but
Trump, and yeah, I don't
I don't
I
mind.
don't like I don't I don't mind some name dropping, but when you get a little too far, it's okay. I mean, it aggravates a little bit. I'm all right. But
Yeah,
the thing I like about Trump, and even going as far back as when that metal show was on VH1, uh, he's trying to keep that
yes.
kind of music that I love alive, and that's the thing I love about Trump. You say what you want to about it, give him a hard time, but he's trying to keep that kind of music alive for people,
You had
and
a little
he's
slip
given
there.
it.
You
I
said,
I I hated it when I heard that metal show would be canceled off VH1.
yeah, that sucks. And I just can't believe with all the platforms we have that they can't bring that back. And they always used to push new music. But yeah, I think it's great that he does it and that he has a platform on Sirius XM, because it's it gets out, it gets the ears out there, and I think that a lot of bands are still selling because of him. They're not selling millions anymore, but
Yeah, I mean,
they're getting noticed and stuff. And I've discovered a few bands from it, like was it Rival Sons? A great band,
yeah,
and stuff like
Rival
that.
Sons,
So yeah, and that's what you
but
got to do. You got to be
it
the
was
modern day Casey Kasem. That's what you got to do. The Casey Kasem of rock, ladies
exactly.
and gentlemen, rock and roll.
But you when that, and I know a lot of what's not bringing that metal show back is I think VH1. Of course, VH1 owns rights about everything that I want to see, like Kissology. I want another Kissology out, but VH1 I think has got something to do with that. Why that's not happening, but now I think that metal show
Was
VH1
there another one
owns.
supposed to come out? I thought they all came out.
No, there was supposed to be another one. How many came out? 4?
Yeah,
Or was it 3?
I think it was 4. I
Well, there was
I
supposed to be another one
I
come out.
bought
They
them.
were already talking. Yeah,
Oh
they were
wow.
already talking about it and had the what was supposed to be on it down, and then it just you never all of a sudden you didn't hear anything about it.
Wasn't people asking Bruce about it, and he said it was like already done, or Tommy was
Yeah,
Tommy. It was Tommy saying it. It was, yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah, it
if
drives me nuts.
VH1, if you're not going to do anything with that metal show Kissology, let it go and let somebody do something with it. Stop holding it in there.
And another
You're
thing
not
about
playing music anymore. You're playing replays of Martin.
damn, Gina. Okay. So the next one goes. Okay, the next one. You gotta let me. I'm gonna say it, but you gotta let me finish it, because I know when you hear it, you're like, "Oh my God, you're one of them." Now, my number 7 is reality TV, but it's not the Kardashians. Well, it was when they first came out because they were hot, but it was. It's like, I love Wicked Tuna, and I know they're up in the Boston area, and I want to go up there and go fishing with them. And it's like, well, now I got guys up there I know. You know what I mean? When I go to a Red Sox game or something, I don't know how far. I've never been up there. I love that. And there's a thing that I watched a lot with my dad. It was like, I guess, where they're like up in Alaska, and they only have so many days to like get all this stuff together because there's no grocery stores.
Yeah.
And you gotta hunt animals and stuff. And I'm not a game person. I like to fish, and that's about it. But seeing them, how they got to prepare and like build a log cabin and all this stuff, those are kind of shows, Pawn Stars. That I love that show till they played it every 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yes, I loved Palm Stars, but then it got where it was every time you turn it around, it was on.
Rick had a podcast like when that got real popular, and I listened to it, and he had a lot of he like a kind of like side note. Did you know this? Like, he would give a history on it, like the show, and it was so good. But I think he said something political, and they got mad at. Of course, History Channel was like, you can't do that and stuff. I mean, he was probably under. It's like, well, am I do this podcast that pays me nothing, or what history tells me? What history tells me. So I mean, that was kind of a, but that's the kind of reality TV I like, and I record it. I have it recorded there, and kind of going on with that. I'm going to kind of add to that. I like soap operas. I have watched Young and the Restless since I was 7 years old. Victor Newman is the freaking man. And I remember used to watch,
damn building.
Yes. And I used to watch it with my mom, and I watched it with my babysitter. We used to sit there and watch As the World Turns, eating potted meat sandwiches and her smoking cigarettes. Love that woman. She was great. And it's like now there's not so many of them on. So I got on the General Hospital bandwagon because there's another badass on that show, Sonny Corinthos, who's a freaking mobster. And I'm like, we have a mobster in the thing. So mobster thing goes up, mafia, anything, which we're kind of going up on. That does it. So that's one of my thing. And my boss was like, you watch that stuff? And I go, dude, I watch pro wrestling, dude. It's the same damn thing as a soap opera for men.
Yes, exactly.
But I did it.
Pro wrestling is a male soap opera.
You have a lot of people. They ask them who Eric Braeden is, Victor Newman. You know who's on General Hospital? Stephen A. Smith. He plays the mobster's right-hand guy. And you know what? Dude's good at it. I like Stephen A. Even though he rags on my Cowboys all the time.
Yeah,
but who does it? But I mean, soap operas too. Reality TV and soap operas. That's like in my queue. If you came and watched TV, you would think that a married couple of an older lady and an outdoorsman were married together because of my playlist. And I'm neither.
All right. First of all, let's get the soap opera thing out of the way.
Here we go.
No, you're going to be surprised.
Okay.
My parents, in the summertime, my parents worked. My grandma and my great aunt kept us, and they would do anything in the world for you from the time you got up till 12:30. At 12:30, you got outside or you were quiet from that 12:30 till 4:00, because that's when Young and the Restless start. But Young and the Restless was not my favorite. They had the schedule. They watched all the CBS when they watched. What was it at the time? It was Young and the Restless.
Bold and the Beautiful.
No, this was before Bold and the Beautiful. Capital.
Capital. Capital.
Yes. Capital.
Yes. And Guiding Light.
That's where you're getting to. That's my favorite. And let me tell you this: I will go back on YouTube and watch the old episodes of Guiding Light, and it brings back so many great memories for me. Actually, if you go back in the past episodes, there's three soap opera stars that I've interviewed on this podcast. Wow.
I gotta go back and listen.
Bill, one of the guy that played Little Bill Lewis, Brian Buffington. He was actually the only child actor on that show to stay that didn't age like 20 years when he went off to that.
You talking about Guiding Light?
That magical boarding school they went to, where they went from age 5. When they came back a year later, they were in there. Yeah. They were like 19. Yeah. But Brian Buffington, Leslie, I don't know if you remember Leslie Kay. She played on 3 CBS soap operas. She played on Young and Restless briefly. She was Felicia Forrester on Bold and Beautiful.
Felicia, are we talking about the blonde Felicia Forrester or the brunette?
No, this was the later
original, or the
later Felicia,
short
black hair.
Oh, dude, Smoke Show,
and
God, she was great.
Yes, and let me tell you, she was a class act when I interviewed her. She's
a great actress. Great.
And then I don't know if you remember Morgan England, who played on Guiding Light, played Dylan Lewis. He was Reva's son that came out of nowhere, the blonde-headed guy. But yeah, and I did not realize till I interviewed him that I did my research when I was interviewing that Phyllis Diller is his mom. Or
Really?
was his mom? Yeah, she was still living when I interviewed him. She was.
She was on Bold and the Beautiful quite a bit in the late 80s. She played like
Yeah,
a crazy
just
hairdresser.
watched. I
Yeah.
just watched her in one of my all-time favorite movies as a kid, High Anxiety, Mel Brooks movie.
Mel Brooks.
Yeah, so yeah, she was scary in that movie, and I told him that. I said, "Your mom scared the crap out of me in High Anxiety when I first watched it," and
What
he
was that?
just laughed about it.
Didn't Gene say that like in the asylum area? I look like Phyllis Diller's cousin or something like that.
Yes, yes,
He's like, no, Phyllis Diller didn't look that bad. Okay,
yeah. But
speaking of Reba Smoke Show back in the
Kim
80s
Zimmer,
and stuff like that, her husband or love interest, Josh Lewis,
Robert Newman.
he is on Young and the Restless now.
Yeah,
And he is playing a devious SOB. He's going against Mr. Newman, and
it's not going to end up well for. It's not going to end up well for Josh.
He replaced this other guy that they had a falling out, but I think they put him in there, and I just remember him as Josh, and he was a good guy, but it shows what kind of actor he is, because you talk about movies, you got time, but these are lines every freaking day. And sometimes they shoot 2 or 3 things a day. They're like, well, wrestling's fake. Those guys are still athletes, and girls are still athletes. It's like they're still actors. And like you think of, and Meg Ryan, she came from, and Meg Ryan, and who's the redhead that was in Boogie Nights?
As the World Turns.
Yes. And Meg Ryan, and it's like she's not in the new Top Gun, and I'm like, but that guy that that gets up another thing. If you've seen the previews, the kid looks just like Goose. I mean, it's like, oh,
yes, he does. Yes,
yeah. But that guy's an actor. I've seen him in other stuff. Yeah, but yeah, soap operas. That's mine. So I guess we kind of share that one, huh?
Yeah, Robert Matthews chiming in again. Got to throw it out there too. Guiding Light had the hottest babes. Yes, yeah, they had some pretty hot ones up there. I mean, you remember, gosh, what was her name? It's Reva's sister, Roxy Shane. Oh,
probably.
Roxy was hot. And then
okay, I will give you that one. But there's somebody that's still on. They're still on Young and the Restless, and she was on As the World Turns too. But she played a nerdy girl, and that's Sharon Case. She was Nick Newman's wife. She is still smoking. Yes.
I remember her.
She's on there now. As the World Turns. Melody Thomas Scott that plays Nikki Newman. She was hot. I mean, and the girl that plays she plays Phyllis Summers on. She's one of my favorite actresses too. It's she was on General Hospital for a while, but she came back to Young and the Restless, and it's like, and there's another girl that came back. She played Diane Jenkins. She was a psycho. Well, evidently she came back from the dead.
Oh, she came back.
She still looks great. I mean, it's like, and I guess I'm getting older, and I'm not, that's soap operas. So we got to move on.
Hold on, let me ask this. Robert's asking this question. Robert's asking this question, and this is like the elephant in the room when you talk about Young and the Restless back in the day, because those rumors went around. Ashley, I don't know if you ever heard the rumors. Was she a man or a woman?
You talking about Ashley Abbott?
Have you ever heard that rumor?
Have you ever seen her? That's great work if it is. She's gorgeous. She looks hotter now than she did back then, because she had those like freaking drawn on Sharpie eyebrows. She's still on there now, and she's smoking. She's beautiful.
Was that the same Ashley though? Was there another Ashley?
There was a one that but she was married to this other guy she was married to this other guy, Ron Moss, that was in Baby Come Back fame, Player. That was his wife at the time. That was a different Player. Ashley. I know too much about soap operas, because it's like Ron Moss, he was
like I said, bud, master of useless information here. Master of useless information.
And I still watch them to this day. And I have no shame. No, you can't shame me. There's nothing I like. I can't. That's what's great about getting older.
It's what I like.
That's right. You don't care what other people think. I mean, you laugh at me for liking the Kiss Animalize era. I watch soap operas. Come on, bring it on.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one's going to seem kind of tame.
Jason Jenkins is watching too, so we got a few people.
Good. My number 6.
Yeah.
Disco. People think that's a thing, but disco, like we were talking about the Foo Fighters, how they did those couple of covers and stuff like that. Disco, I love disco. I love the Bee Gees. I think I was more like you were talking about. I think you were talking about somebody how you went from the Bay City Rollers to Kiss. I probably went from disco to like
Yeah.
Alabama. I went from like disco to Alabama. And my favorite Stone song of all time is Miss You. I love the disco era because it's like real music and it's like that kind of goes into hip hop. I kind of like some hip hop when it's got real music sampled, like the Jay-Z part, the Snoop, the kind of the old school Run DMC. I like that funk
Yeah.
element to it. And I
Yeah.
love, what's his name? Bruno Mars. When he did that Super Bowl show, dude, you talk about great show.
Yeah.
That's
Oh yeah.
he's got it too. He's got it.
You know,
But disco's one of mine too.
I'm not what you would say a disco fan, but I do. As the older I've got, the more I've appreciated the Bee Gees. You know, because they put out some great songs. But yeah, if I'm gonna say a kind of music that or a artist that I like that people probably wouldn't believe I like, but this started at well, there's a couple of that I listen to that are not hair metal and are not country. But first up, Debbie Gibson.
Yep.
Oh,
Nothing wrong with that.
whew, how could you not? How
Have
could
you
you
seen
not
her
love
lately
Debbie
where she's doing
Gibson back in the day?
AARP
I mean,
commercials?
she was
She's doing AARP
pretty
commercials.
and
Yes.
could sing and could write. A teenager. She was like a teenager when she had her first big hit, and I've still to this day like the Electric Youth, whatever the anniversary edition on CD. I got that, and another band, the Jets, not Benny End, but just the Jets, the family group, which put out two great albums back in the
Is
'80s.
that
They
the
were,
one that song He's Got It Over You? Was that the big hit? One of the big hits? He's got it over
what
you.
was what did you say
He's
the
got it
name
over
was?
you. The Jets. It was like he's got it over you. He's got it. I mean, it's like
You got it all. You got it all. That's the
yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I
that
think
was a
that was
good one. But there was another the best one out there as for the Jets. They did a ballad called "Make It Real." That was I remember at several high school dances that came on, and there was a girl that was the song with us. But "Make It Real" was by far, well, not by far, but that was my favorite song of theirs. And just like you said, the Bay City Rollers. I mean, I was a big roller fan. I had to have. I still got my Bay City Rollers vinyl from that I had when I was a kid. And
one of
but
my
yeah, they stood the
my
test
good
of
buddy,
time with me.
one of my good friends. He's going to meet a Rod Stewart. He probably likes the older stuff, but he used to have the Sirius XM, and he would always be playing the '70s channel. And he goes, "You like the Bay City Rollers?" And I go, "I can dig that. I mean, I dig that stuff if it's got a good beat to it, and I like it. Like I mean, I like the Monkees. The Monkees are great, and stuff. But kind of talking about cheesy, sappy songs, kind of like, for lack of a better term, that's like my number 3. It's higher upper, but I want to kind of address that now. I love that stuff like that. You see those stuff on there, like the sounds of the '70s. Like if there's a commercial on, I'll watch it. And they talk about, because I remember one time we were walking outside. It was so hot and humid out here. You walk into like a furnace, and I start singing "Summer Breeze," and every time like that.
Seal the
But
Cross.
I like all those bands. What's it? River City. What's that called? Little
Little
River
River
Band.
Band.
I like them. I like America. And I can kind of consider that too. But I kind of there and kind of talking about cheesy and '80s stuff. I like Richard Marx. That was my first CD I ever bought. Richard Marx. I want to say Main Offender, but that's Keith Richards. What was the one that had "Right Here Waiting for You"?
Repeat Offender.
Repeat Offender. Yeah. Hey. I was at Walmart. They had this is back when CD players. This was like $60 as a turntable, cassette. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna get me a CD player. I got Richard Marx and I got 1984 Van Halen. I bought those too. So people asked me there for a while. I was like, what was your first CD? Oh, Van Halen, Richard Marx. But Richard Marx is great. And I like another one. And I can't really get any feedback on there from bad feedback from our favorite band, Michael Bolton. when Soul Provider came out, and you listen to that song, it's one step below Kiss hard rock wise.
Yeah.
And I listened to that stuff, and I like that song. And the dude was a great performer and stuff like that. That's called Cheesy. And I know you asked Paul, I was like, well, he didn't have much to do with it. And, he acts like he wrote everything. But
Yeah.
Michael Bolton's one of my, if you had to talk about, bands, the stuff like him, kind of that pop music, because a lot of his stuff could be like hair band stuff. I mean, like Steel Bars and stuff like that. That could have been, I can see Steelheart doing that. Steel Bars by Steelheart,
Do
because
you, here's a little bit of trivia for you. You probably know it. Do you remember the band Michael Bolton was in with a former Kiss member before he hit it big on his own?
Blackjack.
Yep. Who was the band member?
Bruce Kulick.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I got that stuff. Everybody's crazy. I have a thing.
Everybody's crazy.
Playing on there. Yeah. Bruce Kulick's. I tell you, Bruce Kulick is vastly underrated.
Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
I think they did. I think that was the first time I saw it, and I was like,
"Everybody's crazy." Yeah,
that's Bruce Kulick.
Bruce is in that, right?
Yeah.
I tell you, getting on Kiss again, man. Bruce Kulick, you talk about an MVP for Kiss. I can't say enough about him. He's my favorite guitar player because he's from my favorite era. And if Ground and Funk Railroad comes to town, I will go and see him. But they're not, so.
Well, we got another comment from Robert Matthews, and he said this is going back to the soap opera thing. He said, I like the old Jack Abbott better, which was Terry Lester.
Who was in?
And Terry Lester, guess what he was on?
I know what he was in. Sam. Sam's still in the park.
It's Sam.
Yeah. And you
talk already halfway up the bridge. Let's go.
He was also on As the World Turns. He played like a pretty good character. I think he was involved with that girl that you interviewed. I think she had a thing with him, if I remember. The brunette girl you brought her name up a while ago from As the World Turns.
Yeah.
She was in a storyline with him, but he had a real tragic ending. He had suffered like multiple heart attacks when he died. He had left.
Yeah.
But you look at Peter Bergman now, and it's like, it's hard to, he's taken the role. It's like his.
It's hard to believe. If people don't remember, Terry Lester. If you hadn't, if you're not a child like we were back in the day, you don't remember Terry Lester as Jack Abbott. Peter Bergman's been doing it for so long.
I'll always remember that one episode. I don't know if you remember this. He pushed his dad, John Abbott, so hard to go public with the company. And John was like, well, and stuff. And he pushed it. Well, he did that. And Victor came after it. And so Jack's sitting there. He's like reading the paper back when we used to have to look at a paper for our news.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's seeing this hostile takeover. And then you see Victor looking at him. What's like, yeah, that'll always get me with Terry Lester. There's just something not right. And he had that little and what did Paul take that thing off his? Sam, you're still acting weird. And Paul takes that skin tag off him. Oh, that's
that little microchip, whatever it was up there. Yeah. And all of a sudden,
yeah,
I'm fine now.
And whatever happened to that girl?
While we're talking about that, while we're talking about Kiss Meets the Phantom, the scene where they're at wherever Kiss's place they're staying while they're doing these concerts, and the girl just walks off while they're playing Beth. Yeah. And then Sam comes up, and he still did, the robot, and she tries to kiss him, and then she starts screaming.
Yeah. And then Gene. Gene's like,
but Paul's not worried about going to see. The rest of the guys are kind of like.
He goes, yeah. He's embracing her.
He lashes onto her, and I'm waiting for him to just start dry humping her. Because I was like, dude, she's just trying to find her boyfriend. And you're trying to take advantage of her.
Did you ever see Wayne's World?
Yes.
Wayne's World 2 when the Aerosmith's playing, and he's trying to get in to see Tia Carrere, and he's telling the guy, dude, I got to get in.
Oh yeah,
passes and stuff. And he tells the bouncer, we got to get in there. My girlfriend's in there. And the bouncer looks at him. and a lot of girlfriends in there. I mean, it's like, yeah, I remember that, and I remember, and kind of the part two is it where Sam discovers what do they call the talisman
Talisman.
or whatever,
Yeah.
and he touches it, but it's got these superficial powers. So Paul Stanley's sitting there playing it, and they all kind of look at him like he just messes up and he can't hit it. But you talk about a missed opportunity. They should have released that as a single. That would have been a big hit.
Yeah, definitely.
The redone. So
the redo of Beth.
Yep. Okay, I don't know if you want to go for it next or me.
Go ahead.
And you found this out. We've talked about our top 10 list. I love mafia stuff. Not, doing the stuff mafia people did, but like reading up on them and stuff.
All right, Peter.
I just rewatched The Sopranos. yeah, good catch there. This is New York. This is New York. And I remember that used to come up on my playlist, and I'd like fast forward. And
oh, come on now.
No, I like a couple songs off his album. And that's not the worst Kiss album ever. We should talk about that sometime.
We'll talk about that in another podcast.
Mafia. We got to rewatch The Sopranos. I just watched that not too long ago. My all-time favorite movie. I had to combine them because I love it so much. Which came out the year I was born, celebrating the 50th anniversary. But anything, even like the cheesy ones, I'll watch. Like Amazon had this stuff, but it's mafia related. I'll watch it. Like I said, I just did a rewatch of The Sopranos. Hadn't seen it in a while. But I mean, and Goodfellas and stuff like that. And the history. I love reading about Prohibition era and what they did. Like it's history related, so and it's got mafia ties to it, like the Untouchables. You watch that now, and the thing that stands out is Duvall. But when you have these gangsters wearing Armani suits, it's like nobody wore that back then. You know what I mean? And but it's a great story about Elliot Ness and stuff. But I love all that kind of and just that kind of with that old police shows. Like I listen to Dragnet, and stuff like on my thing. Jack Webb, you know what I mean? Just kind of that nostalgia. Lack of a better word, it's nostalgia.
All right, so I'm not going to go down the mafia road with you because I'm not, I don't mind it, but I'm not into that. But while we're talking
you never saw Godfather.
I hadn't until I did watch it. I did watch it the other day. I haven't watched number 2 yet. I watched the one, and I could see, I didn't get crazy about it like some people do, but I could see where it is a good movie. It sets up a good story.
Yeah. But that's a future episode we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But me, growing up as a child, a teenager in the 90s, you went from Saturday morning cartoons they changed to Saturday morning, like almost like teen soap operas. And I was a big fan of a lot of those shows. But the main two were Saved by the Bell, which I loved, and California Dreams. California Dreams. I don't know if you remember that one or not.
No, I don't. I remember Saved by the Bell.
What? You don't remember
California? I don't know Dreams? California. I know California Dreaming by the Mamas and Papas, but that's a different podcast.
Well, California Dreams was teenagers, of course, in California that start a band, and it shows how they're like a garage band, and they, you see different things, kind of like a Saved by the Bell with a band in it, not the Zack Attack, but yeah, Friends Forever, not Friends Forever, but these. I have actually interviewed 3.
Oh wow!
3 of the guys off that show. And they had some smoking hot girls too.
It's California, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, ooh, boy, and I'm still trying to get that.
Anybody
and I actually,
any breakout stars that I may know?
No, not really. Now one of the girls actually went on to do Baywatch.
I probably know her.
What was her name? Shoot, and I'm ashamed that I don't remember her name because I've actually sent her a few messages about. We'll find
California.
out.
What's it called? California Dreams.
California Dreams, and Brentley Gore, J. Anthony Frankie, and Aaron Jackson were the three that I interviewed. But this is Kelly Packard. Yeah, she was on there. She was the one that was on Baywatch.
I know none of these people.
But I actually have an interview. Yeah. But they had some good songs. But I've actually got to interview those three guys, and I've got to interview with the guy that did all the music for California Dreams. And actually, I did not know this till I did my research on it. He wrote, I don't know if do you remember, when 90210, that's another one. I was a 90210 guy. I liked it back then.
Shannon Doherty, Ginny Garth, yes.
Yes. And there was actually another when it came out called The Heights. I don't know if you remember that. Short lived.
I know what it was. I never watched it.
The theme song to it went to number 1. How do you talk to an angel? This guy.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's the guy that beat up
this
Donna.
Guy wrote.
It ruined his career.
This guy interviewed. He wrote the song. He wrote How Do You Talk to an Angel?
That ruined his career. I read an interview with him saying when he portrayed that as beating up Donna, he thinks that ruined his career. And that was a great song.
We talked about that. He actually, the guy that you're talking about,
Jamie, right? Jamie something.
Jamie Walters.
Yeah.
And he actually did another song. He put an album out, and I was like, you can't put an album out and then try to, be portrayed as a freaking beaten on your freaking girlfriend. That's not going to work. You're not going to get.
Speaking of 90210, Luke Perry, his son is an AEW Jungle Boy.
Yeah,
and I remember Jericho had him on. Jericho had him on and stuff like that, and it took me a while, but it's like, oh, I see it now. I see the resemblance because when he had the sideburns, it's like Daddy had back in the 90s. Man, Luke Perry dying, that hit me hard. I like Luke Perry. I got a Luke Perry story for you. There was a movie he was in the early 90s called 8 Seconds. Yes. It was about him doing that. They shot that movie here in San Antonio. And there was a store called Sun Harvest. It used to be like a health food store. So me and my buddies were there, and we walked right by Luke Perry. And my buddy's like, man, I think that was Luke Perry. And all comments about. I'm like, is that Dylan? Dun, dun, like the 90210 theme. But I mean, it was like he was right there, and he was like short as can be. And it's like I walked right past him. I didn't recognize. He had the cowboy hat, but that was a great movie. And when he died, that sucked because he was in some stuff. He had done some stuff before, and they did the reboot of 90210 not too long ago. And I think I was one of the few people that watched it. And if there's anybody that looks better than she did back then, it's Ginny Garth and Tiffany Amber Thiessen. But I read an interview with Tiffany Amber Thiessen on Howard Stern. They treated her so bad. I mean, Tiffany Amber Thiessen was like Kelly Kapowski. And you talk about, I mean, she has her cooking show now and everything. And it's like Howard had her on there and they treated her so bad. And it's like, wow, it's just like Mean Girls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because she was a new girl, she replaced Shannon Doherty, and who was on Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
And you talk about small towns. And another thing, one we'll have to talk about is where I grew up. I don't think I've told you about that. We'll have to talk about that.
Well, another thing in that episode, that interview, you guys will find out when we put that up, is there's a guy. Hey, and look, Robert Matthews. I love the guy. He's putting up. I love when people put the comments in here. Martika looking girl was my favorite. I don't know who he's.
Oh, I know who she's talking. Oh, yeah. She was in a Scary Movie.
I know who Martika is. Toy Soldiers.
No, that's the one Dawson listened to. No, he's talking about.
And then he's talking about another.
She came in later. She was with Steve Sanders, and she wasn't that hot because when she got in Scary Movie, and she was like the babe in one of the Scary Movies. I think that's who he's talking about. And I mean,
I'll have to.
no, I'm looking it up right now, but I think I know who he's talking about. Queen Latifah.
And
Was in
he's
a scary
talking
movie.
about Dawson's Creek. Dawson's Creek and One
Oh,
Tree Hill. I was a big Dawson's Creek fan.
was this girl on Dawson Creek? Is that what he's talking about? It may not be the right person if he's not talking about 90210.
He's talking about. He said that before. Uh, he talked about Dawson's Creek.
Hold on, I
Oh, he
found
might
it.
be
Who it
talking about the
is?
girl in California Dreams.
Oh, hold on. I think the one
Heidi
I'm thinking
Noel
about.
Linhart is.
She was on. She was Steve Sanders' girlfriend, and she kind of looked kind of gothic, and I thought that's what he's talking about. But she was in Scary Movie 2. Scary Movie.
What's her name?
Scary Movie 2. I don't know. I'm trying to look it up, but of course, it has everybody on there, but I don't want. I think that's one of the best scenes ever in the open that movie where James Woods is that priest, and they're doing an exorcism, and it starts cussing. He's like, that. He goes out of it. Have you seen Scary Movie? Yeah. I forgot, but she was on 90210. Oh, Catherine Robinson. She's a brunette blonde. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was Steve Sanders. She's 48 years old, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. She's Kathleen Robinson. So she was,
she was the chancellor.
She was
She was
kind of
the
gothic
chancellor of the
looking.
school's daughter.
Yes. But I never really thought she was that hot then.
But
she was one of Donna's biggest supporters when she was going through that stuff with wife beater guy and that character.
Yeah.
But she's in Scary Movie, and I hadn't seen her in a few years. So like, oh my! I mean, I don't know what she's doing now, but
ooh la la.
Yeah, exactly. To quote Rod Stewart.
Yeah, Robert is definitely talking about. He said he was talking about the California Dreams girl.
Oh,
That's
okay,
Heidi
so
Noel Linhart.
I thought you were talking about 90210. My bad.
And my wife watches. What she used to watch a lot of Lifetime movies, and when you come in the room and
Hallmark
get
Channel.
sucked into some of them. Yeah, Hallmark Channel. But there was some movie on there about a nanny and Heidi Noel Linhart and I guess I'm saying her name right. But she was on one of them. And I was like, oh, that's Jenny. And I remember she was Jenny Garrison from California Dreams. Yeah, wow. She was pretty hot. I can't blame you there, Robert. Can't blame you there. But Dawson's Creek, we thought that was so cool because that was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina. They made it out like it was Cape Side up in New Hampshire, but it was in Wilmington. And a lot, there was a couple of my friends that were extras on the show. And one guy I got to know, and I probably need to bring him on here one night. He's a filmmaker, and he was working for the company that would rent out the stuff, all the film equipment to Dawson's Creek. I remember, I don't know if you watched it much, but when Dawson's dad got killed.
Is that the same dude?
Okay, well, Dawson's dad got killed, but I remember he was talking about, he kept telling me they had a big crash scene and somebody's going off that show. And I was like, who in the heck could it be? But yeah, that was ended up what it was being. But I need to reach out to him, and he could probably tell us. I've
never seen Dawson's Creek. Never. Now the Heights. Yeah, okay, I can reference that later. I'll tell you about that later because it goes up with my neck. Okay, my other thing is old movies.
Old movies.
Yes, old movies, and I'm talking. You saw my list, so I'm talking 40s, 30s, 40s. Charlie Chaplin, Humphrey Bogart, probably one of my favorite actors. That movie I gave you that you need to watch, Dark Passage, it's his best movie, I think. It's not when Bogey and Bacall met, but I saw it on a Twilight Zone episode once when they reenacted it, like in the early 2000s, or maybe before that. But I've always been, I grew up watching Westerns, John Wayne and, Rawhide, and stuff like that. So old movies go to it. Like if there's a movie on Turner Classic Movies, I'll put it. If it's the middle of something, it's like Shawshank. I can't stop watching it, and stuff like that. Or an old Bogey movie or something like that. So old movies, it kind of goes along with like old radio time shows. They have these apps that when I was a kid, we didn't have the internet really. So I'd listen to these. It was either that or listen to like gospel shows where it would tell me how bad I was for sinning. So I was like, no, I'll listen to the old stuff. because they had these shows that would like really make you feel bad, and it's just like I don't want to feel that way. I want to listen to the Lone Ranger or something like that. But yeah, old movies with nostalgia. That I love it. I love, and I'll watch an old movie that I hadn't seen before, but I'll read up on it and like, oh, okay, cool. I hadn't seen in a while, but yeah, I love old movies. And I'm not talking Star Wars either. I'm talking old movies.
Well, you know what? That Star Wars, 77? We're getting close to 50 years now. So I mean,
Mhm. Well, some of us are
that's an
closer
old
than
movie.
others. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't do. I can't say I can't do the old movie thing because there's some old movies I like, but I give Dad a hard time because my dad likes to watch these old westerns, and I'll sit down there and watch with him, and I'm like, dude,
When you're
the
talking,
stuff,
when you're
man.
talking old, are you talking? You're not talking Eastwood old. You're talking older than Eastwood.
No, I'm talking to old. These, I said, those stunt men
Like
should have
Randolph
got paid
Scott,
a lot.
Scott,
Should have got,
George, yeah.
yeah, they
And
should
the
have
one
got
thing I have
paid
a
a whole
hard,
lot because
yeah,
he missed him by about a foot and he still went down.
yeah, I feel bad for the horses back then because there was no animal rights thing to protect them, because I mean, lot of times those animals would just get killed, and I don't like that because like you can kill 100
No,
people, but a dog gets killed. No, don't kill the dog or the horse.
that's one of the things that'll probably be my next thing there that we talk about. Uh, if just like you said, I can watch a movie and I'll tell you this story. A girl I dated, first date, and she's like, "Let's just come to the house and we'll watch a movie." Okay. And anybody that knows me knows I have a tender heart for animals. And
Same here.
so she picks out a movie. And what's the name of that freaking movie about the Michael J. Fox did one dog? I think Jimmy Stewart did the old dog, and Sally Field did the cat that got lost from the owners when they were moving.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's the Long Journey or something like that. Was it called?
Something like that. Long way. But she
Long Way
decides to
Home.
do something like that. And Homeward Bound.
Homeward Bound. Yes, never saw it.
And she decides, okay, let's watch that. So it's getting to the point of the movie. You're trying to keep up this macho image and all that. Yeah. And it's getting to the point at the end where they're coming home, and you see the cat come in first. You see the young dog come in, and all of a sudden you don't see anybody else. And I'm like,
Oh no.
oh gosh. I'm like, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. And when that dog comes start limping up, I just started doing this. Now I had to pull the old, oh, my eyes were watering because I'm yawning so much and I'm tired. I was like, oh my God, please get me through this. But yeah, I'm like you. I can watch Rambo where he can slaughter like 750,000 people. But if he accidentally shoots a bird or something, I'm like, oh, I'm ticked off. And especially if it's a dog. If it's a dog, you're done. I'm like, no.
There was a movie in the early '90s. It was a takeoff on Lethal Weapon. It was called National Things Loaded Weapon. I think it was
Loaded
Emilio
Weapon.
Estevez
Emilio Estevez,
and
Samuel L.
Samuel
Jackson.
Jackson. And they had something where they had some kind of shootout, and they had all the tape of all the bodies. All these people are dead, and they have the outline of the dog. And the guy goes, "Damn shame why they did that dog." Like they were just worried about the dog. Yeah, I've never. Kind of speaking of that, when I was growing up, I always hear this story, and it's like it was when Frosty the Snowman came on, and so he's there, and he has the hat, and it's when the little girl's with him, and they're in the was it greenhouse? The keep him warm, and that guy grabbed his hat or whatever, and he closed the door, and Frosty melted, and my mom goes, "You looked at me like." I was horrified that Frosty melted. Of course, I was like 4.
Yeah.
But I always hear about that, and I used to tell people I worked with that, and they'd always buy me Frosty stuff. And it's like, you don't realize how traumatic that was for me. I mean, and I've never been able to see Bambi. I'm not a deer hunter for a lot of reasons. I've never seen Bambi. Old Yeller, God, that sucked. Or the Yearling with Gregory Peck. That's another old movie. He's got this deer that keeps getting into the thing, and he makes the kid
Yeah.
go and kill the. I mean, dear God, that sucked. I mean, but those people were and those people were. I mean, it's just a different time. I mean, it's just. I mean that. I mean,
I'll tell you one,
Mm.
if you don't like watching, the ones about the animals and stuff, but it's a good movie. But my daughter, when I came in from work one day, Daddy, you need to sit down and watch this movie. And I was like, okay. The guy that played, I can't remember his name, played in this, what is it? This Is Us, or that show. But he plays the dad on there. It was called The Art of Driving in the Rain. And you hear it, and I'm like, okay, it's a driving movie, so something like that. These guys a racer or something like that. It has nothing to do. Well, does have something to do with it, but the main focus is the freaking dog. That the dog's voice is Kevin Costner, and I mean, it will freaking rip you a new one. Everybody talks about what's that other one? I've never watched it. The one with Owen Wilson in it. What was that one?
Oh,
About the
Miley and
dog.
Me.
Yeah, I've never watched that. I want to
Yeah,
watch it.
it had
But
Jennifer Aniston in it, and I'm surprised I didn't see it because that's another. But I never saw it. I heard about it was because he was real disobedient. Yeah, yeah, and it's
but
weird. I didn't have a dog for the longest time, growing up, and probably about a few years ago, I got my first, dog in a while because I always had cats and stuff like that, but I was always working. I could never really, and I got one, and it was weird. It had a profound change on me to where I look at dogs almost about two above people, some people.
yes,
And it's like,
yes,
but it's weird with me, but I can sit there and watch, Wicked Tuna where they're catching these. If fishing has never bugged me
yeah,
because I think I partake in that and I eat it. You know what I mean? Like, and stuff like that. But like deer, I am not I mean, it's got to be cooked right. And there's only like one person in my life that I know had cooked it right. That's not gamey tasting. But I mean, it's like, there's on that and everything. But there's some movies I can't do it. And then when I kind of see it that way, I think I was watching Giant with Rock Hudson and James Dean. And there's a part where they're like
right.
about to kill a horse or something. I shut it off. I've never been able to finish the movie. I can't do it. And horses to me are like dogs. And like, you talk about TikTok and stuff and you watch all this crap on TikTok and it's like, if you get the right product for an animal, you will be a billionaire. I mean, people will buy it because a lot of people don't have
Oh
kids.
yeah,
I don't. My dog is actually my child. You know what I mean? And that sounds very weird, but that's the way I look
well,
at it. I spend as much
no.
money on her. I got insurance on her. Yeah, I'm a dog parent. Whatever.
I will tell you this. I said this many a time. Back when I was growing up, I don't know how dogs survived because dogs today you take them. I mean, we take a dog back then to the vet if something was going on, but
No.
if dogs like the hair was coming off, we get happy. There was a company called Happy Jack that made stuff that you put that on there. You didn't go to the vet every time. Oh my
Happy
God! Look,
Happy Jack. What it would. What was it now?
it was like a medicine. These people made like a medicine for dogs. So it was if they had because our dogs we didn't have inside dogs. We had outside dogs,
Yeah.
and which uh, and they would get like something like mange or something like that. They start have hot spots or something like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
their hair would come out, and you'd put this Happy Jack on them, and within like 2 days they were like they'd have more hair. They had like an afro,
You think
but
you can send me some of that? Do they still make it?
yeah, I don't even know
Yeah.
if it's around anymore. I have to look up Happy Jack because I haven't seen it
That,
around in
that
a
could
long
mean a lot
time.
of you put that in a Google engine. You'll be imagine what you'll find. Happy Jack.
Happy Jack, yeah, that's not even go there on that one. But yeah, I've said that mentioned. I don't know how the dogs survive because I'll tell you this: the uh, one of our dogs, which he was one of the best ones we had. His name was Duke. He was just a mutt. Wasn't any. We got him from somebody. One of our cousins had somebody that had puppies, and we got him. his house that he stayed in was one of these big old oil barrels. I mean, it was huge, like a 250-pound oil barrel that we cut cut like a hole out in, or somebody did, and we put like blankets in there, and he was content. He stayed in there all the time, and I mean he hadn't made it there because it was warm but yeah.
I had a vet tech tell me one time. I took my dog to the vet, and she was telling something that you don't need to be. I mean, granted that you don't need. We kind of over care for our pets sometimes, because a dog's not going to sit there and starve to death. It's going to look for something to eat. That's internal. Yeah, I think, and sometimes they get spoiled and stuff like that. But I'll tell you a funny story about my dog. I've had her I got her in 2014, and she was like not even a year, and I've had her ever since. And her name was Cherokee. And of course, when I hear that name, I think of the Europe song Cherokee. And one of my best friends asked me, he goes, "Why did you name her that?" Which I didn't, right? And I was thinking, are you thinking this is some kind of, bad, some kind of like, I thought he was asking me like, well, it's, it may offend somebody. And I go, you mean that way? He goes, no. One of those dancers used to go see. Weren't there a lot of Cherokees at those clubs used to go? Oh, dude, that's over 20 years ago. Dude, those days are way gone. It's like Cherokee to the main stage, Cherokee to the main stage. I only got two more, so I don't know if you want to go next, but I have two more, and my list is done because we've kind of crossed paths on a lot of them. I don't know how. I think my number one, we'll kind of agree with, and you'll know that one, and I think number two you'll know too. But you want me to go, or do you want to? You have something to say?
You go ahead. Go ahead with number two.
My number two, and it's not so much a guilty pleasure anymore. It's paranormal stuff. And I've told you before that I was part of a podcast and a TV show for a while. And when I did it, I was like, I work for my ex-boss, Brad. And I've sent you the video about kind of what they saw in Gettysburg. And he showed me that.
Yeah, that was freaky.
And he showed me that, like, and hopefully Brad and Barry Kling, they will come on our show sometime. I still talk to them and stuff, but they're kind of not really getting away from the paranormal, but they're kind of doing more history thing because they done have the paranormal already.
Right.
They're called like the investigators. They're like looking at history and they're seeing how it impacts like current thing. But Brad was like telling me the story. I got this video, and he had like an old video cassette back when they were on vacation, like he says. And that was hooked. We started a group and everything and did for a while, and we would go investigate. And a lot of it was like, we didn't get paid for this, it's like podcasting, and there's not a lot of money in it, unless you're Joe Rogan or, Pat McAfee.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, we do it for fun because we like it. And we did that. And there were times, of course, I was younger back then, that we'd stay out and we'd get some stuff that I don't know what it is, but it really doesn't. It's always intrigued me. And I'm not so much into like ghost hunters. But Ghost Hunters gets a lot of crap, but they were the first to do it. And it hasn't really changed too much from then. Our show kind of does on science. We'd have like scientists on there, like, hey, you're by the Mississippi. That's why you have more activity, because of like spirits and stuff like that, or, like energy. It's just energy can't be created or destroyed. So it has to go somewhere. Or is it matter? Well, one of those two. But yeah, I read up on, and I listen to paranormal podcasts. I still listen to Brad and Barry's. And I sent you that latest one they did.
Yeah.
And I know a few mediums, they're good friends of mine and stuff like that. And they have been and I don't know if I really believe in the medium part of it, but there's been times where they've been able to find stuff that it can't be explained. I mean, I know you have your fakers out there, but there's stuff like two of my biggest things about paranormal, not so much ghosts, because I've kind of done that, but paranormal is like life after death. You have all these studies about kids having these memories they have no right to know. Like, I was in World War II, and that was it. And they would talk to the other guy that was there. It's on History Channel sometimes or whatever, but it makes your skin crawl. I mean, none of us know what's going to happen after we go. I mean, and stuff like that. And also time travel. I would love to be able to time travel. And there is a guy that was on Coast to Coast, and he wrote, and he wrote a book. And I want to contact him because he was on Coast to Coast, which was the late Art Bell, which was one of the best the shows back then. It's with George Norrie now. I still listen to that. But he talks about traveling back, and he worked for the government. This is a conspiracy thing where there's a picture of a little boy where Abraham Lincoln is speaking. He claims that's him. And I don't know, but I forget his name, but it was a thing called Project Pegasus. And you listen to that and some of the stuff on YouTube, he's believable. Like, I don't know if it's true, but that's what the paranormal kind of, to me, that I'm not so much into the ghost part about it anymore, the Sasquatch and stuff. Aliens scare the hell out of me. If there's I'm going to be like Cartman on South Park, you know what I mean? Like, get that thing away from me. But when I talk paranormal, I talk about like time travel, and like, reincarnation and stuff like that. And like I said, I'd like to get Brad and Barry on here sometime. And they said they do it just to talk about that stuff, and not just as though, hey, did you hear this? I could stuff make it made my hair curl and I don't have any. I mean, it's just, there's stuff out there, and a lot of people, oh, that's nonsense. I mean, but there's something there.
You don't know though. You don't know.
There's something there. And I'd like to do a show on, like I said, paranormal on that. But I mean, that's a big thing of mine. I read a lot about it. I watch a lot of YouTube. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I was in my younger days, but I've gotten past that. But I love paranormal stuff. And you knew that.
Well, the thing, I haven't followed the paranormal, but one of the things that I've been kind of fascinated with is the UFO craze. And, now it's coming out that I guess the government's actually, depending on who you believe, they're saying there is something out there that they've seen. I don't know if you saw any of that series.
Yeah.
Where they were showing some of this stuff. And I'm like, I mean, how do you explain that? I mean,
you talking about that, the stuff, it was like the space junk, they said?
Yeah.
It was like that long. It's like, yeah, where's that coming from? Yeah. Well,
exactly.
Yeah. There's something there with the whole Roswell thing, because our technology from the 40s on has become so big, I mean, and you talk like this, and you people think you're like Woody Harrelson in 2012. You think you're that crazy guy in the, and that's what a lot of people think paranormal people. But you have a lot of people that are very quote unquote learned, that have like that they and you can be a skeptic, and I'm a skeptic with a lot of stuff, but there's just some stuff you can't explain. I mean, you just can't explain it. I mean, yeah, I know you're talking about the space junk, but NASA has become more open about it. And that's the one thing that Trump talked about. Trump was like, when I become president, I'm going to get that released. Well, you know how he was kind of his own guy. Yeah. They wouldn't let him do it. Obama tried the same thing. Bill Clinton tried it. The presidents say we're going to do that, but there must be something. And that's probably the one time that Obama and Trump agree on something. It probably scared the shit out of them. Excuse my French. Scared and stuff like that, to where we can't let the public know this, because it would be mass hysteria. So I think that's why they're doing little by little.
Yeah. All right.
To let us know.
Yeah. We got some more comments here. Boy,
cool.
Zeus has chimed in, and he said, what's up, boys? We just finished recording, and you guys both made appearances. And
nice. Thank you.
He said Boardwalk Empire is brilliant if you like the mafia and its origins. So
have not seen that one.
And
I need to see that one.
They're big on the Godfather deal. You hear that when Pinocchio.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've talked to Tom about.
I want my own theme song.
Yeah,
that's my goal. That is one of my goals, to have my own theme song on Shout It Out Loud.
I think mine should be like the People's Court.
New Year's resolution.
Mine should be the People's Court, like the warden. Dun, dun, dun. But that's a judge more. That's not really a warden. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I can't think what yours would be. Yours would be Bay City Rollers, dude. That's it, man. Bay City.
Yeah. Saturday night.
When I say Steve, I think Bay City Rollers, man. I mean, you could put up for mine. Or mine could be just a boy. Well, I don't like the Elder, so I'm one of the few that doesn't like the Elder.
That's another story. That's another story too.
Oh, thanks,
But
man. That's
yeah,
awesome. That's awesome to hear
um,
that, man.
yeah, appreciate it, Zeus. You guys are
Yes.
great. You guys have really helped us out. Even before the warden came on, you guys were really helping me out. And several mentions on the show, and I appreciate it.
So is
Uh, and I
Tom
think,
and Zeus, do we call them like Chuck Woolery because they made not a quote love connection, but they hooked us up, man.
yeah,
I
we
mean, it's
got the
not quite
connection.
that
Shout
thing,
it out
it's like,
loud, Catherine.
yeah. So when we
Yeah,
talk about Tom and Zeus, we got to play the love thing, the what's it called, the
love
love
theme from
connection
Kiss.
thing.
Dun,
Yeah,
dun,
there you
dun,
go.
dun, dun. Yeah. So with me, and I think I'm pretty crystal clear on this. I don't know if it's a big surprise to anybody. I'm a big, big sports nut. I mean,
Yes.
and football is my love. I'm a football coach. I've been a football coach for counting the 1 year I did. This is year number 12.
Wow.
So been in a few state championship games. Had an undefeated season a couple
I didn't know
years
you
ago.
pitched baseball too. I didn't know that about you either.
Actually, I have right over here two baseballs that I found when I was cleaning out. That one is from my last start that I pitched a complete game,
That's awesome.
and won the game, and then one of them was from the first start I had. So I found that. I was showing that to my daughter, and her boyfriend's a big baseball guy. He's actually going to play, hopefully, play in college next year. So he was
Where's it
like,
going to
"That's
go?
pretty cool." It's a small school, not far away from us, but it's like I tell the kids, if you get to the next level, I don't care what the school is, if you get to the next level, that's a pretty big accomplishment for you. You should be proud of yourself.
That's one thing
But
about Texas. We have some great baseball. Texas, of course, and as much as it hurts me to say this, the Aggies have a great because Aggies and Texans are big rivals.
yeah,
And TCU, Matt Carpenter, great Cardinal, great. That he's signed with the Rangers, and I think who was that went there with him? He just retired he was played for the Cubs. It was Arenado, not Arenado. He plays, but he was a Cy Young winner back in I think before the Cubs won that World Series. But he's from TCU too. So and
Now,
Nolan, and of course the great Nolan Ryan, and the great, still not guilty, Roger Clemens. So, I mean, he didn't get convicted. I hear everybody always say that. Well, they didn't convict him. And that guy stood them down. And, hey, plus he's a Longhorn. So, hook 'em, baby. Hook 'em.
I have to tell you this. Robert Matthews, who's been chiming in, he's a big Texas A&M fan.
Uh-oh. Sorry. But I'm a Longhorn. I have my Longhorn. I mean, all my family are either my whole family or Aggies. But I went to UTSA. My grandfather was a vet. Went to school with Clayton Williams back in the 50s, or he was a veterinarian. So, I mean, I know it's a friendly rivalry, but Texas is going to the SEC. I cannot wait till Thanksgiving comes again. Texas A&M.
And we.
Hey, I got to have some football. Okay, I'm a Cowboys fan, and I don't know if I told you or not, but Brad and Barry, my paranormal brothers, they're Steeler fans. And I text Barry today, and I go, "Hey, the podcast, it was there," and I go, "Oh yeah," and my buddy Steve, he's a Steeler fan, because I sent him that picture of Tomlin. What never smiles, but when he's next to Britt Baker, smoke show.
Britt Baker brings out that smile, but
yeah,
that's
I mean, it's just too bad she cheers for the wrong team.
No doubt about it. That's another show too.
Yes, but I mean, I never seen Tomlin smile, never. But yeah, he says you're a good man, and I'm done good being with another. And all my friends, I have so many Steeler fans. I think I have more Steeler fans than Cowboys. Cowboys start winning a few games, they'll come back. Die hard here.
That's and I have a friend that's a Cowboy. I have a friend that's a Cowboys fan, and he's pretty diehard. But I tell him, you go through this pattern. Like right now, he came into where I worked the other day. He was wearing cowboy hat, cowboy shirt, cowboy coat. I said,
I like him already.
This is how it starts. Well, this is how it starts with him. He starts wearing this stuff. He'll this time of year up until September, maybe October, he'll wear jerseys. He's got an old Deion Sanders 21 jersey. And then all of a sudden, as the season goes on, you see less and less Cowboy stuff because they're not doing so good. I was like, dude, why don't you wear as much at the end of the season as you do the first? I don't do that. And I said, I see it every year. I see it every year with you.
It's I've told my friend, I told Barry this. I says, if there's one team that I wish the Cowboys were more like, it's the Steelers. Because how many coaches have they had? They had
3.
I mean, yeah, and exactly, and they were record breakers. They first hired wasn't Tomlin the first African American coach in the NFL? And they even did that Rooney Wheel based on that because the Steelers were doing it right. Jerry Jones, I mean, he's already trying to hire Sean Payton. You know what? I like Sean Payton. They should have hired him instead of Jason Garrett when he was under Tuna in Dallas. But you know what? Who has one ring? Sean Payton. You know who has another ring? Our current coach. McCarthy. I almost forgot his name.
Yeah, McCarthy.
I mean, and I was like, we wanted Sean Payton. Why? He has the same amount of rings as Sean Payton. And stuff like that. Jerry he's a great owner. The Cowboys are $1 billion franchise. Heck, even Lady Diana liked us back in the day. We're the Cowboys a lot is like the late Scott Hall said, we're all fluff and no stuff. And it's just we're like the I mean, I make Cowboy jokes all the time, and you know it, but I've been a fan and I'll never quit not being a Cowboy fan. I go to games.
Yeah.
Troy Aikman's my favorite quarterback. Corey Aikman's my favorite player of the time. Michael Irvin, Staubach. But you know what? They shouldn't have paid Dak Prescott before they played Zeke. They should have given Dak. But I was watching Colin Cowherd the other day. He says Dak's contract's only for a couple years. And you know what they're going to have to start out with paying him? $54 million because they chose to give Zeke the contract before Dak and stuff like that. And then they get all this going on and they get rid of Cooper, who when Dak threw to, got it. He gives up all that money to stay in Dallas. And what they do, they cut him, send him to the Browns. And I hope the Browns, like when they cut DeMarcus Ware, and I was going for the Broncos. And Wade Phillips won. Wade Phillips deserved to be fired a long time ago. That's another story. But DeMarcus Ware, they gave up on him. They let him go.
Yeah.
And he won a Super Bowl. And it's just
he got it.
It just irritates me because Jerry Jones, you don't see Robert Kraft doing this. You don't see, I don't know who owns the Steelers now since they passed away. The only one you see is Al, what was his name that used to own the Raiders before he passed away?
Al Davis.
And they were never the same when Madden left. I mean, it's like we had never been the same since Jimmy left. And Jerry Jones will never have a ring without Jimmy.
No.
And when he goes and they sell the Cowboys, but I mean, that's a cash cow. I mean, I used to have faith in Steven, but it's like the same. It's like Groundhog Day for me. It's like every freaking year. It's just the same thing.
Same old story.
Like Dak started out great, and sure enough, at the end where it counted in December, we suck. But you know who's out there buying tickets? Who's out there selling that stadium? Us. And that's why it's never going to change. You quit going to games, things will change. You hit Jerry's pocketbook, things will change. But that ain't going to happen.
I'm
very passionate about this kind of stuff.
I know. I'm the same way.
Dude, I had hair when they won last, dude. 1996.
Good Lord.
I mean, the only thing that makes me feel better is we actually beat the Steelers. I mean, it's like the one time that we actually did. And you guys have had like 4 since then?
No, we've had 2.
Well,
you guys paid off. Neil O'Donnell's got an oil well in Dallas somewhere where you guys paid him off.
Well, he can get he'll get a free beer anytime he goes in Dallas. I'll buy him one.
Exactly. Robert brought up a good thing talking about the paranormal, and this is something maybe we can talk to your buddies about.
Okay. We
have a local legend around here. It's a town that's about 20, 25 minutes away from me. But there's a railroad track. It's called Early Station. And there's a railroad track out there. And for years, since I was a kid, probably even before that, there's a light out there. and nobody can explain it. You
Yes.
sit there sometimes and just all of a sudden it's not there and it's there,
Mhm.
and it'll come at you.
Mhm.
And I mean, have you ever heard of any kind of like
I haven't
ghost
heard of
lights
it.
and train
I
tracks?
haven't heard of it. Okay. I haven't heard of it there, but there's another story, and you can Google it. You remember Real People back in the day?
Yeah,
Real People
Sarah
with
Purcell, Skip.
yeah. Well, if you ever want to look up kind of stuff like, no, they did one of the first paranormal investigations. It was in a old Toys R Us, and they like film it stuff, and it had never been done back then. It was like In Search Of was the big thing, but they had a story on Joplin, Missouri, and they have the same thing there. It's called the Joplin Like Spook Light, and it was when we were doing our show. I had told Barry and Brad about that. I go, we need to look at this. That it was something that we wanted to do, and that would be a good topic to have them come on and we can discuss that because they got them in
Yeah,
Missouri.
I would love because it's on. I think you can look it up. It's the
Send
early
me
station
some
light.
send me some information on it or whatever, and I can look into it. And I'll present it to them if they want to talk about it. Because I know we've talked about the Joplin thing, and they said, well, these
Yeah,
two Indian lovers committed suicide and they're just haunting it. But that ball of light, that's something. And I think Barry and Brad have told me they've seen like this in other parts of the country too. Because if you get it, I mean, there's stuff out there you can't explain. I mean, there is a legend when you said
it'll
train
come.
tracks. You said train tracks. There's a legend here in San Antonio, and I thought that you were going to talk about, but there's a thing of train tracks where you put your car on the train, and supposedly these ghost kids that were killed on the train will push your car over the track, and you'll
Oh
see like
Lord.
little fingerprints on there. And I don't know if I want to spoil this for anybody, but there's a story that explains it. And that's kind of what you kind of do. You kind of look at the history of like something that can explain it. And that's why paranormal is so fascinating to me, because it's history. But that I would like to read up on that, what you told me about. And that's
Yeah,
something I
I'll
can
see
ask,
if I
I
can
can ask
find
them
some
about.
information.
Yeah, because they may know more about it than I do, because I mentioned the Joplin one, and it sounds like the same thing.
Because it'll come right. The light will come right up to you,
Mhm.
and I mean it's nothing. Nobody with a flashlight or anything like that, but it's kind of freaky.
Yeah.
All right, so you got one more.
One more. Okay, you've seen me on Facebook. I love dad jokes and puns and memes. That is my thing.
Yes,
And I
you
have
do. Yes,
and
you do.
I post so much because it's, I have no life, no fan. No, I'm just kidding. I do it because it cracks me up and I share it. And I've noticed something. I have a lot of people following me. Like they'll follow me because I'll see my meme somewhere. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not like some of them, but I don't do like on my personal page. I don't do political stuff. I did in the past, and I don't do that. I belong to a couple political pages, and that's different. That's there here now. But it's like I love a good joke. I love a good dad joke, just like don't call me Shirley. I mean, I get my friends that just roll their eyes up. Typical. I mean, it cracks me up. I mean, I put on. I think I put on one of my. I think it was maybe your page, and I go. I laugh at the stupidest crap. I just do, and I just it's just like like that, and when people don't get it, and and it's like it just really bugs me. And I'm getting better. I don't confront them. I just like, okay, whatever. Get off
Okay,
my
whatever.
lawn,
Just let it go.
Karen. Yeah. But I'm a walking pun. I like that stuff. And I know
There's nothing wrong with that. We've got the same sense of
yes.
humor.
But you get it though. You ever watch South Park or not? Well, South Park and like Family Guy. You kind of got to be
Family Guy,
paying
yeah.
attention when they say something, and you're like, oh yeah, like they'll say something like I saw something the other day. I go, man, that's years ago, and it was Family Guy. It's like, oh, I remember that. It's like
You ever watch Robot Chicken?
No.
Oh my gosh.
That's been on a while, right? Has that been on a while?
Yeah, Seth Green. Seth Green is one of the creators of it. But yeah, that's got a lot of those. You should watch that because I think you, with your sense of humor, you would appreciate a lot of that stuff.
That's been on since like the 90s, right?
Yeah, Comedy Central plays
my buddy,
a lot.
my roommate used to watch
it only lasts like 15 minutes an episode, but it's got a lot of short skits in it.
You know what show I used to love? And I don't think it lasted very long, was Space Ghost. That was so
Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Funny. And he would like
you remember when Space Ghost was just a cartoon in the 80s?
Yes.
Yes.
70s. No.
I love
70s.
Space Ghost.
70s.
Yeah, 70s.
Yeah.
There was nothing like
Mhm.
the TV guide. When you got the TV guide, and nobody, if you're not our age, everybody's like, "What the heck is he talking about a TV guide?" But when it had the fall episode preview come out, and you look in there and you see
Yes.
the new cartoons on Saturday morning lineup, and I'm like, yes,
You know,
I get up
replace
at
that.
5:30.
Replace that for me was in the 90s Entertainment Weekly. And I read that up till when
Yeah,
it went down because they would have that. And I get mail every once in a while. My grandmother got me a TV Guide subscription, like back in the late 80s, 90s. And she always had that thing. God rest her soul. I miss her every day. But I get all these offers from TV Guide. I'm like, I don't use TV Guide. I use the
how
guide
do
that's
they
on my TV.
exactly? Why? How are they still in business?
I had a subscription for like 3 years. I never paid for. And I know why they went out of business because they were giving idiots like me free subscriptions. Yeah,
Do
but
you remember?
favorite 70s cartoon of all time. Put you on the spot.
See, I'm not sure if this is 70s or not, but and
Oh,
this is
favorite cartoon of all time.
one of my favorite cartoons of all time, and it's probably because I'm a Star Wars guy. But Battle of the Planets. You need to look it up. It's got another name for anima, but this one was pretty much teenagers that were superheroes on the side. They didn't really have powers or none, but they were like orphans, I think. But they had a ship called and it turned into the Fiery Phoenix. But it was pretty much Star Wars cartoon side, but it's kind of sort of they were feeding off that. Casey Kasem did the voice for one of the main characters up there.
Oh, Casey Kasem did the voice on my
Shaggy.
favorite. No. Super Friends, dude.
Oh gosh, yeah, with the Legion of Doom.
You know who that voice was?
Hey.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, do you know who that is?
No, I don't have a clue.
Ted Knight. Too Close for Comfort, Mary Tyler Moore. And one of the greatest gift means of all time off Caddyshack. Well, we're waiting. And I went back and I started watching Mary Tyler Moore, and I had finished. I watched the Jeffersons because everything's on. I have Hulu.
Oh yeah.
And I remember Mary Tyler Moore being cute, but I'm looking at her. I'm looking at Rhoda. I'm looking at who's the other girl? She just recently died. The blonde.
Betty White?
Well, Betty White too. I had a crush on her in the Golden. It was that sick in the 80s, but she was only like 50 something. No, it was Cloris Leachman. You had Mary Tyler Moore, you had Rhoda, and you had Cloris Leachman.
Hold on.
And I never looked at them like I look at. I'm a 50-year-old man. I look at them a different way now than I did when I was 10. But I was like, you talk about God, no wonder that show was popular. Those girls were hot. And you got Lou Grant, you got Ted Knight, you got Mr. Captain Stubing. Great show.
You know what? I have to backtrack. I'm glad you brought that up. I have to backtrack on some information I gave you earlier. Cloris Leachman was that guy's mom. And I can't remember his name. Morgan England. I don't, because Phyllis Diller. I don't know why I thought it was Phyllis Diller, but it's Cloris Leachman because she played in Facts of Life.
Yes, she was. She was also in The Longest Yard.
I had to apologize.
Did you ever see the remake with Adam Sandler, The Longest Yard? I watched that the other day, and she's on there. And
yes,
or was that one or the original one? It was one of them. She's on. I think she's on the new one or something. I don't know. But you talk about living to the day she died. She was. I mean, and like Rhoda.
Yeah, that's my apologies for getting that wrong because I don't know why I saw that, but Yeah, she was the one in high anxiety. That was not Phyllis Diller, but it was Cloris Leachman.
Yes,
Yeah.
she was very pretty too back then. And I think about that show that started in 1970, and I was like -2 when that came out. So it's like, I mean, it's I stole that from Sebastian Bach. He was talking about when they were doing the Moscow Music Peace Festival, or no, they were touring with Aerosmith when he threw that bottle and stuff, and he was like, "I'm not gonna go up to Tyler and go, here, man, take a rail, puss," because that guy's been doing it before I was 0 or negative something. So, wow, yeah, we got to do that sitcoms maybe sometime.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. But yeah, Ted Knight. All right, and Robert. I appreciate Robert sitting here as long as he had. He said 4:30 a.m. was a long time ago. He said I enjoyed it. He enjoyed the show. So appreciate Robert coming in, chiming in with his comments, and I'm sure he'll be on again sometime. But I was just watching Too Close for Comfort the other night, and I've actually got my fingers crossed. We may have one of the actors or actresses from Too Close for Comfort for an interview. She's talking and preliminary stages right now. So
okay, does this person have a Kiss connection?
I don't know. Does she?
If it's who I'm thinking of, as Paul Stanley dated her.
The blonde?
Yes.
Yep. Lydia Cornell.
Yeah, people ask me why Paul Stanley's my favorite guy. He dated Samantha Fox. He evidently was with Lita Ford, according to his book. They quote him, had a lot of fun together. He was with Leslie Ann Down, who was in the Jamie's Got a Gun video during, I think they were doing that they're the Unmasked era. Then he was with Donna Dixon.
What about Clint Black's wife?
Oh, Lisa Hartman? Yeah. And he also dated Cher's sister. Cher's sister was him and Cher are like real good friends. They could be like, I always thought Paul Stanley and Cher could be like brother and sister. Like when she was doing Heart of Stone, I could see Paul Stanley like when they were when they look alike, they look so much alike.
There's some demos back from the Crazy Night time period. I don't know if they were demos for Crazy Nights, but there was a lot of talk about he was trying to write songs for Cher. When Two Hearts Collide.
Yes, that's a great. That is a great song.
That is. I like
that song. And I don't care what anybody says. Time Traveler is a great song. Ugh. I will go to my grave saying that. Maybe I'll come back and start singing that to you, Steve. I'm a time traveler. I will sing that to you, man. And we were just talking about time travel. That can be the theme song for our episode. We talk about time travel. We'll get the great Paul Stanley to come up there and do it. Yes, that's my goal.
Time Traveler.
Now, I like
should have been Sword in the Stone.
Yes, Sword in the Stone was great. There's a lot of stuff
Shocker.
Out there. Yeah,
Shocker soundtrack. Did you ever see Shocker?
Yeah, when that little girl's cussing that guy out, I think that's so funny. Go ahead, F yourself. The guy's like looking at her. Yeah, I like
that. Was probably that was one of the first horror movies I wanted to see, and it was only because of the soundtrack. And I was like,
do you remember Metal? Do you remember Metal Shop? Back in the late '80s, it was a radio show that they used to. I remember I used to have it on. There's a radio station that used to be great here before they kept playing the same stuff over. 99.5 Kiss. 99.5 Kiss. It was what was called, and they had a show. It was like every Saturday. It was like every Saturday night. It was called Metal Shop. You can look it up. And they would debut albums, and they would talk to bands. They would talk about. I mean, I remember one of the earliest I remember is when they were doing. I first heard "Hide Your Heart" on there, and I was like, "Man!" I called the radio. Y'all need to play the new Kiss song, and then y'all need to play the new Kiss song because you couldn't get it back then. I mean, you guys have to wait for music. People don't understand. Like the new Def Leppard's coming out. We got 2 great songs. We would have to wait months for that. We'd hear it on the radio, and we had to get our little tape recorders up there to record it. Now everything streams fine. But
Put
yeah,
it
never
on
stop.
pause so you can just hit pause when you hit record.
Or like when they would talk in the beginning of the song, it's like, shut up.
I remember I had it down to an art. Yeah. But
luckily we're not in jail for piracy, Lars.
Let me answer me this, and then we'll begin to get off of here. And this may be another episode too. If these people, I mean, major like Sony, everybody that made electronics back then made double cassette, boom boxes with record option, and they even put speed dubbing on, because I have one that had speed dubbing. Why would you do that if they didn't want you to make copies?
Well, what gets me about it, that does it, but is like when those big artists go after like the mom and pop bars for having a jukebox. I think Springsteen did that, or if it was his company that did that. They just had a bar, but they and like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like the companies don't keep up with the technology. Like they should have been up ahead of that, because I mean, Napster's, I mean, it was the worst thing that could happen to the music industry, but it could have been the best thing if they would have worked with it.
They'd have done it right.
And embraced it. Yes. Instead of going after your fans. And that's the one thing about Metallica, being a fan for so long, they let you record everything. And those people weren't going for new albums. Like when I was on Napster, I was finding stuff I couldn't get anywhere. This is before YouTube.
Exactly.
And one of them was a Revolting Cocks. I mean, I could not find that anywhere, but I found it on Napster.
Oh, I can't imagine you could. We need to reach out. You need to reach out to those guys and bring them on the show.
They're still around. They were very
on the fly. Yeah. Revolting Cock.
Yeah, I would like to know why they did that song. I mean, it's a great song. I mean, I mean, the original's great too. But
hey, reach out to them if they're willing to come on. We'll have the Revolting Cock song. Maybe we'll do a Revolting Cock top 10.
Yes.
Anyway, so you've learned a little bit about us tonight. We've learned
probably more than you wanted to.
Probably so, but and one of the things you noticed, we do have a lot in common, but we still have some things that we're not in common, but a lot of things in common. And I think this is why we got the band together. Because I like people that have a lot of knowledge about music, and this is somebody. Warden obviously knows a lot about music, and I
know everything but how to play.
I don't play an instrument.
Yeah, we are like Eddie Trunk in that era. We never got the talent down, but we know our stuff.
I was actually the other night looking on Amazon at keyboards, and I was like, nah, I don't have time. I don't have time to add anything else to it right now. So, but my daughter I bought her a actual acoustic guitar probably about a year ago, and everybody said, well, she's cheating doing this, but Chord Buddy, I don't know if you ever seen that.
Yeah, it was on Shark Tank.
Yeah. She got one. We got her one of those, and she can flat out play it now. I mean, she hadn't played in a while, but it taught her how to play the chord.
That really works.
Yeah,
I'm about to get one because I have an Ibanez acoustic guitar I got in the late '80s, and it's an Ibanez, so you know why I got it.
Yeah,
but Uncle Gene is coming out with a new Gibson bass. Only set you back $4,000, dude.
Yeah, spend about $2,000 or $3,000. You'll get one.
I would. Yeah, it's like 3 to 4. It depends. But the Ibanez Iceman that Paul plays, those go for like $7,000-8,000.
Yeah.
They don't play them. They don't play that themselves either. You have to play it still.
Yeah,
for that much money. Does it play by itself?
you get the shattered glass.
Oh yeah, that's an awesome guitar. The height of the Love Gun era, yes.
Yeah, and then seeing him when he was talking about it, seeing the blood on it from his, oh wow, that was pretty awesome.
When we do a Kiss episode, we probably got to do our I've seen them about 14 times. I don't know how many you've seen them. We ought to do our top episodes. I got some stories. Actually, I've never met the band, but I got some stories that I think would be cool that we could talk about.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. So that's going to do it for this week. Any last words?
No, just go out and listen to new music, and you can find us on Facebook under Steve and my name, friend us. You know what I mean? We have a page called On the Fly. Did I say it right? Right?
Yep.
I didn't
Yep.
say Flythe.
Right. You didn't say Flythe.
And we got another page, All Things Rock, Hard Rock, and Metal, which pretty much everything from the Bay City Rollers up to Slayer. And then we have that 80s page that we both admin and stuff. And Tom and Zeus has helped me out with getting those pages started, and so is Steve, and I appreciate that. But we'll keep doing that. We'll push this out and on Instagram.
Yep,
it's going to be pushed out too, so you can follow us on there when the episodes will be available on the Instagram page. And Steve's always active on Twitter, so
yeah, and we'll be updating the round of 32 of the Rod Stewart Battle of 64 the Music Madness, not March Madness. But we'll be updating that in the next day or so. And next week we'll talk about whatever we want to talk about next week. We
don't think that much ahead. We like, hey,
yeah, we're not planning.
Good.
We're not planning out. We're kind of like we said, on the fly. I mean, we're on the fly.
Yes,
so, but anyway, Warden, enjoyed it as always, and good 3-hour show. Tom and Zeus, we're gonna try to follow in your footsteps of 3 hours of just whatever.
I like that Gilligan's Island, a 3-hour tour.
3-hour tour. But anyway, guys, you guys have a great week. Thank you guys for listening. Check us out, like we said, everywhere on social media, Twitter, Facebook, DM us. Let us know what you want to talk about, what we should be talking about. If you disagree with something, also subscribe to our YouTube page. We're on YouTube. And subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast at. We're available. But as always,
any subjects you want us to go over, hey, let us know.
Any questions that you want our opinion on?
May not be the right one, but we'll give it.
Yeah, you may not agree with what we tell you, but we'll give you our opinion. Yeah. But anyway, Warden, signing out, guys. You guys have a great week. That's another episode of On the Fly.
See ya.